We remember Harry Potter as the child abandoned to a cupboard under the stairs, a name whispered with pity in the corners of the wizarding world and spoken with awe in the halls of power. But history is fragile. It isn't made of stone. It is made of choices. One decision, one turned head, one hand reaching across the boundary between worlds, can fracture everything we think we know. Imagine a world where magic does not leave its savior to rot. Imagine a world where the lightning bolt scar isn't simply proof that a baby survived the impossible, but a seal of inheritance, a badge of aristocratic power, a mark that draws attention the way a crown draws eyes, not because it is shiny, but because it is dangerous to ignore. In this reality, the boy who lived was never a servant. He was raised as a prince. The year is 1983. London is wearing a grey drizzle that turns pavement into mirrors and makes every window look like it's holding its breath. The city is crowded, impatient, alive. Cars hiss along wet roads. Umbrellas collide like dueling shields. People rush past each other with the frantic purpose of those who believe they're late to something important, even when they don't know what it is. The Dursleys do not belong here. Vernon Dursley walks like a man who thinks the entire city has personally offended him. His suit is too stiff, his expression too sour, his hand locked around the small wrist of a 3-year-old, as if the child might vanish into the crowd if he loosens his grip for even a second. Petunia follows at his side, tense and sharp-eyed, her mouth pinched as though tasting something bitter. She looks at shop windows and reflections not with interest, but with suspicion, as if London itself might reveal something about her that she is desperate to hide. Between them, dragged more than guided, is Harry Potter. He is small in the way neglected children are small, not because they were born to be, but because the world has refused to feed them properly. His black hair is matted and uneven, as if cut in anger rather than care. His clothes hang on him, wrong for his body, wrong for the season, wrong in every way that matters. There is a bruise darkening one shoulder. There are faint marks on his arms, the kind that speak quietly but clearly to anyone who has learned to listen. And on his forehead, half hidden beneath his hair and the shadow of the London sky, is the jagged lightning bolt. Vernon jerks him forward, impatient, as if the child is not only slow but intentionally humiliating. Harry stumbles, catches himself, and keeps moving because he has learned that falling makes everything worse. They turn down a street lined with boutiques that gleam with polished wealth. Petunia's eyes dart toward the displays like an addict catching the scent of something expensive. But Vernon's steps are brisk, resentful. This outing was a compromise, one he will never admit he made. A rare trip into the city, not for pleasure, not for culture, but because Petunia wanted to feel normal again. Because Petunia wanted to be surrounded by people who looked like her, shopped like her, lived like her. Because Petunia wanted to forget that there was a boy in her house who did not belong. Harry is, to them, a problem that breathes. And problems, in the Dursley mind, are meant to be managed, contained, and hidden. But the world does not always allow hidden things to remain hidden. Across the street, exiting a boutique that appears to have been designed for the sole purpose of humiliating ordinary wealth, Narcissa Malfoy steps into the drizzle as if it is beneath her. She does not wear an umbrella. The rain refuses to touch her. It veers away in tiny, obedient arcs, repelled by a subtle charm woven into the air around her like perfume. Her hair is a pale gleam against the grey day, her posture flawless. She turns her head slightly, not because she must, but because she chooses to. Her gaze takes in the world the way a queen studies a room, with calm, practiced assessment. She is accompanied by Lucius Malfoy, whose presence is not loud, but absolute. He carries himself like an institution, like a verdict. The silver head of his cane catches the weak daylight, and throws it back with a cold brilliance. His eyes sweep the street with the faint boredom of a man who assumes nothing here can truly surprise him. They should have walked past. They should have entered their waiting car and returned to their world of manicured gardens and silent corridors and priceless heirlooms. They should have continued living as they always have, untouched by the mess of other people's lives. But Narcissa's gaze catches. It snags on a child across the street. At first, she doesn't understand why her attention has halted. The child is small, ill-dressed, clearly Muggle. London is full of children. There is nothing special about a 3-year-old being dragged through a crowd by impatient adults. Then her eyes focus. She sees the black hair. She sees the bruise. She sees the way the child flinches when the man's grip tightens. Not dramatically, not loudly, but with the subtle reflex of someone who expects pain as part of daily routine. And then, like a blade sliding from a sheath, she sees the scar. The lightning bolt is unmistakable. Narcissa Malfoy does not see a hero. She sees a desecration. In her world, blood means lineage, and lineage means power, and power means responsibility. Not moral responsibility, not kindness, not the soft virtues people praise in public speeches. A colder responsibility, the responsibility to protect what is valuable, the responsibility to ensure that what belongs to the wizarding world remains within the wizarding world. Harry Potter belongs to their world, and someone has left him to be ruined. Something shifts in Narcissa's face, not into anger the way ordinary people show it, but into a precise stillness, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. Her lips part slightly. Her eyes narrow. She turns her head toward Lucius. He follows the direction of her gaze. In that heartbeat, Lucius Malfoy sees what Narcissa sees, but he sees more. He sees opportunity. Harry Potter is not just a boy. He is a symbol that still holds political weight, even 2 years after Voldemort's fall. He is a living shield against suspicion, a name that can be placed beside theirs to cleanse the stain of old allegiances. He is the kind of asset that, if acquired, would make even their enemies cautious. Lucius Malfoy's mind moves quickly, cleanly, like a knife across parchment. There is an old decree, tucked away in legal archives, a dusty piece of legislation that can be invoked when magical children are placed in dangerous environments. It was meant to prevent magical heirs from being harmed by muggles, meant to keep bloodlines secure. Lucius himself helped fund the campaign that created it, years ago, when he still believed Voldemort's victory was inevitable and the future would belong to pure-blood families. The decree for the protection of magical minors. He smiles very slightly. Narcissa does not ask what he is thinking. She already knows that her husband's instincts are never wasted. Lucius taps the silver head of his cane against the wet pavement once, a gesture that is both habit and punctuation. Then he turns, and London becomes irrelevant. He steps into a narrow alley between shops where muggles do not look. The air folds, and with it, the boundary between the crowded street and the quiet hidden arteries of magical infrastructure. One moment he is beside Narcissa, the next he is gone, moving through a system of private flue points, discreet fireplaces, sealed corridors that exist beneath the city, like bones beneath skin. By the time Narcissa looks back across the street, the Dursleys have moved again, pulling Harry forward. Harry stares at the ground as he walks, because looking up makes you notice how far away everyone is. But for a second, as if some thread in his blood senses attention, he lifts his head. His green eyes meet Narcissa Malfoy's gaze from across the street. There is no recognition there. Harry is too young, too battered, too trained to hide in plain sight. But there is something else, a flicker of alertness, a wary intelligence that has had to grow too quickly. Narcissa feels it like a needle beneath her skin. She does not move, She does not call out. She simply watches as the child disappears into the crowd. And then she turns away with the certainty of someone who knows she will see him again. Because Narcissa Malfoy is not a woman who allows what she wants to slip through her fingers. Hours later, the world shifts. It begins with the quiet click of apparition inside a ministry office, the kind of office that is normally hidden from public view. It is staffed not by cheerful bureaucrats, but by people who handle delicate problems quietly, people who understand that laws exist for those who know how to wield them. Lucius Malfoy walks in as if he owns the building. He doesn't demand, he doesn't shout, he doesn't threaten. He simply produces documentation, references, and a legal framework so airtight it is almost beautiful. His voice is calm, his tone polite. He invokes the decree. He speaks of magical minors. He speaks of neglect. He speaks of the scandal of leaving the savior of their world in the care of muggles who clearly hate him. And because Lucius Malfoy has been shaping the ministry for years, because his name still holds weight even in defeat, because his influence did not vanish when Voldemort did, the officials listen. They move. The response is swift and surgical. By late afternoon, ministry representatives arrive in Little Whinging with clipped professionalism. They appear on Privet Drive, like an intrusion of reality into a carefully maintained lie. They knock. They enter. They assess. They do not need much time. They see the cupboard. They see the too small clothes. They see the child's fear. They see the scar, and that scar does more than prove identity. It proves importance. It changes the stakes instantly. Harry Potter is not just any magical child. He is Harry Potter. The Dursleys are terrified. Vernon tries bluster at first, the same bluster he uses on salesmen and neighbors, but it cracks quickly under the cold authority of ministry law. Petunia becomes shrill, defensive, her voice rising in pitch as if volume might create safety. She insists she has done nothing wrong. She insists she is family. She insists she has endured enough. No one cares. Not when Lucius Malfoy has already framed the narrative. Not when the officials are already writing down phrases like deplorable conditions and emotional harm. Not when the decree is being wielded like a blade. Lucius arrives before evening, stepping into the Dursley living room as if he has always belonged there. The room feels smaller around him, cheap, suffocating. His pale hair catches the light. His cane taps once against the carpet, and Vernon's face goes blotchy with anger and fear. Lucius is perfectly courteous. He thanks them for their service. He expresses regret that such a burden was placed upon them. He speaks of compensation. That word lands like a spell. Vernon's eyes flicker. Petunia's breath catches. They are greedy, and greed is a language Lucius speaks fluently. The papers are placed on the table. The Dursleys hesitate, but not for long, because the alternatives are worse, because they are frightened of magic, because the child has never been a child to them, only a threat. They sign. Their hands tremble. Harry watches from the corner of the room, silent, because he has learned silence is safer. He doesn't understand legal decrees or ministry protocols. He doesn't understand why strange people have appeared in his house. But he understands that something is changing. He understands that Vernon is afraid. He understands that Petunia is angry in a way that looks like panic. He understands that a tall man with a sharp face has looked at him not with disgust, but with interest. And the strangest thing of all is the woman standing beside that man. Narcissa Malfoy moves towards Harry, slowly, deliberately. Her expression is controlled, but there is something in her eyes that makes Harry's chest tighten with confusion. It is not softness exactly. It is not warmth the way storybooks describe it. It is possession. It is protection. She crouches, bringing herself to his level, and for the first time in his life, an adult looks at him as if he matters. Her fingers lift, not quite touching his cheek at first, as if she is testing whether he is real. Then, Gently, she smooths back a lock of matted hair, revealing the scar fully. Her breath catches, almost imperceptibly. "My poor boy," she murmurs, and the words are quiet enough that only Harry hears them. Harry does not know what to do with that. He has never belonged to anyone who wanted him. He has only belonged to people who tolerated him like a stain they couldn't scrub out. When Narcissa stands, her hand remains extended. Harry looks at it. A hand offered is a strange thing when you've spent your life being pulled or shoved. But something in him, something stubborn and ancient, something that refuses to die even in cupboards and hunger, reaches out. His small hand fits into hers. It is warm. That warmth is not affectionate. Not yet. But it is human. It is real. And it feels like stepping across a line. By the time Albus Dumbledore becomes aware that the wards on Privet Drive have collapsed, the transfer is already complete. Not only complete, legal, public, witnessed. Lucius Malfoy has ensured it. A story appears almost immediately in the papers, delivered with the smooth righteousness of a man who knows how to weaponize outrage. How could the savior of their world be left in squalor? How could the great Albus Dumbledore, so praised for his wisdom, have placed a magical child with muggles who despise magic? The implication is clear. Dumbledore, for all his reputation, failed. Lucius Malfoy, for all his past, acted. To the public, it looks like a humanitarian rescue. To those who understand politics, it looks like a masterstroke. To Harry, it is simply this. He is lifted into a world he has never seen. He is taken away from a house that never wanted him. He is carried through a swirling green fire that smells like ash and old secrets. He emerges into a space that feels like a cathedral built from stone and silence. Malfoy Manor waits like a monument. The gates open without a sound. The path is lined with hedges, trimmed into harsh perfection. The air is colder here, as if warmth is something that must be earned. Inside, the manor is vast. Chandeliers hang like frozen stars. Floors shine like black water. Portraits watch from the walls with eyes that feel too intelligent to be paint. Harry clings to Narcissa's hand. He expects shouting. He expects punishment. He expects to be told he is wrong, that he is too loud, too messy, too inconvenient. Instead, servants appear like ghosts, bowing, silent. A house elf scurries forward, trembling with nervous energy, and Narcissa dismisses it with a glance that makes the creature recoil immediately. Lucius Malfoy looks down at Harry as if assessing a rare object, not cruelly, not kindly, precisely. "This is your home now," Lucius says. Harry does not answer, because answering adults feels dangerous. Narcissa squeezes his hand once, an almost hidden signal. She turns toward the grand staircase and begins to lead him upward. As they climb, Harry looks back. For a moment, through the open doors, he sees the outside world again. The grey London day, the drizzle, the street that brought him here. Then the doors close, heavy and final. And Harry Potter, the child who slept in a cupboard, steps fully into the shadow of a dynasty. That night he is bathed in water scented with expensive oils. His skin is scrubbed clean by gentle hands that do not hit. His hair is washed until it shines. He is dressed in soft emerald fabric, the color deep and rich, a shade that somehow makes his eyes look brighter. He is placed into a bed so large it feels unreal. The room is enormous, echoing in its emptiness, designed for someone important, someone expected, someone wanted. It feels like sleeping in a museum. Harry lies in the center of the bed, too small for it, staring up at a ceiling carved with intricate designs. His fingers clutch the edge of the blanket because he does not trust softness. Softness, in his experience, is temporary. A door opens quietly. Narcissa steps in, her footsteps almost silent on the floor. She walks to the bed and sits beside him. Harry watches her like a cornered animal, unsure what is expected. Her hand moves, careful, and smooths the blanket over him. "You are safe here," she says. Harry does not understand the words fully, but he hears the certainty in them. He feels the weight behind them. Safe. It is a word he has never owned. Narcissa stands, and for a second she hesitates, as if she might do something else, something softer, something that doesn't fit the architecture of this house. Then she leaves. The door closes. Harry is alone in luxury, alone in a place that will shape him into something new. And deep in the manor, in a room lined with books older than empires, Lucius Malfoy stands before the fire with a glass of wine and a mind already building the next decade like a blueprint. He did not save Harry Potter out of kindness. He saved him because saving him changes everything. Because raising him changes the future. Because a boy with Potter blood and Malfoy discipline could become the most powerful political weapon the wizarding world has ever seen. The boy who lived has entered the House of Serpents, and the house intends to make him worthy of the investment. Harry's first morning at Malfoy Manor begins before he wakes up. It begins with the house. There are places that feel alive in the way forests feel alive, full of wind and birdsong and hidden movement. Malfoy Manor is alive in a different way. It is alive like a blade is alive, like a watchful eye is alive, like a trap that has been set and is patiently waiting. The silence is not empty. It is curated. Harry opens his eyes to a ceiling carved with serpents and thorned vines, and for a moment he forgets where he is. He expects the cupboard. He expects the stale, dusty dark. He expects the feeling of air running out. His chest tightens, a familiar panic rising out of instinct, because his body remembers the cupboard, even if his mind wants to pretend it didn't exist. Then he turns his head and sees space, so much space it makes him dizzy. The bed is enormous. The blankets are heavy, soft, too clean. The air smells faintly of cedar and something sharper underneath, a scent like ink and stone. Light filters through tall windows in thin grey ribbons. The morning drizzle outside, turning the world into blurred watercolor. Harry sits up quickly, as if the bed might punish him for being slow. Nothing happens. No shouting. No footsteps thundering down the hall. No cupboard door ripping open. That should have been relief. Instead, it is confusion, because Harry's understanding of life is simple. If you are not being punished, it means punishment is coming later. He slides out of bed and stands on the cold floor. His feet sink into a rug so thick it feels wrong, like stepping on moss. He looks down at himself. He is still wearing the emerald silk sleep clothes Narcissa's servants put him in. The fabric clings to his skin in a way that makes him feel exposed, as if nice things make him visible. He doesn't know what he is supposed to do. At Privet Drive, he knew. He knew because he was always wrong. The rules were unclear, but punishment was consistent. At Malfoy Manor, the rules aren't shouted. They aren't spelled out. They are implied by the architecture and the eyes in the portraits, and the way the corridors seem to narrow when you walk through them. Harry steps toward the door and hesitates. Then he hears it. A soft scratching sound. Not threatening, not loud, just there. Harry turns slowly, scanning the room. Near the fireplace, a small creature stands half hidden behind an ornate chair. Its skin is pale and wrinkled. Its ears are enormous. It wears a simple cloth tied like a pillowcase, and its wide eyes stare up at Harry with nervous devotion. A house elf. Harry has never seen one before, but something about the creature feels familiar anyway, like the shape of old magic in storybooks he was never allowed to read. The elf bows so quickly its forehead nearly hits the floor. "Master Harry is awake," it squeaks, voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Master Harry is awake, and Dobby is ready." Harry stares. The elf's words land strangely. Master Harry, no one has ever called him master. No one has ever called him anything that wasn't boy or freak or you. Harry opens his mouth, then closes it again. He doesn't know what to say. Dobby looks up and flinches at Harry's silence, as if expecting to be punished for speaking out of turn. Then the elf rushes forward, hands fluttering. Dobby brings clothes. It blurts. Clothes for Master Harry. Proper clothes. Malfoy clothes. Clothes that fit Master Harry and not muggle rags. The elf snaps its fingers. A folded stack appears on the bed. A crisp white shirt. Dark trousers made of fine fabric. A soft emerald waistcoat, embroidered with subtle silver thread. Even the shoes look expensive, polished enough to reflect light. Harry's throat tightens again, but this time it's not panic. It's something stranger, heavier, like shame mixed with hunger. Dobby wrings its hands. Master Harry will be late for breakfast if Master Harry does not dress. It squeaks. Mistress Narcissa says Master Harry must be presented properly. Presented. Harry looks at the clothes. He looks at the elf. He looks at the mirror across the room. The polished glass reflecting a small boy with a scar and wide green eyes in emerald silk. A boy who doesn't match the room. Do I have to? Harry finally whispers. It's the first time he's spoken since arriving. The words are small, careful, like he is testing whether speaking will hurt. Dobby's eyes widened with alarm. Master Harry must, the elf says quickly, nodding so hard its ears flop. Master Harry must, because Master Harry is Malfoy now. Master Harry is important. Master Harry is prince. The word prince makes Harry recoil, because prince is a storybook word, a pretend word, a word for children who get saved, a word for children who are loved. Harry is not loved. He is tolerated. He doesn't know it yet, but he is wrong. He is loved in a way that is sharp-edged and possessive and political, but still love, still real, still more than Privet Drive ever offered. Dobby takes Harry's hesitation as confusion and darts closer, eager to fix it. Dobby helps, it squeaks. Dobby dresses Master Harry. Dobby makes Master Harry perfect. Perfect. Harry thinks of Vernon's face when something wasn't perfect. He thinks of Petunia's fingernails digging into his arm when he made a mess. He flinches, instinctively pulling back. Dobby freezes. The elf's eyes fill with panic, and it smacks its own head lightly with its fist. Bad Dobby, it mutters. Scared Master Harry. Dobby sorry. Harry watches, stunned as the elf hits itself for making him uncomfortable. Stop. Harry blurts. The elf immediately stops, trembling. Harry's mouth feels dry. No, stop doing that, he says again, voice firmer now, because something inside him hates seeing the elf hurt itself. I can do it. Dobby's eyes widen, then shine with something like awe. Master Harry is kind, it whispers reverently. Master Harry is good. Harry doesn't know what to do with that either. He dresses slowly, clumsy with buttons, unused to clothes that fit. The fabric feels strange against his skin, the waistcoat making him look older, sharper. He puts on the shoes, and they don't pinch. That alone feels like magic. When he finishes, Dobby snaps its fingers again, and the emerald silk sleep clothes vanish, folded away to somewhere Harry will never see. Dobby adjusts Harry's collar with quick, careful fingers, then steps back and bows deeply. Master Harry is ready, it says. Harry looks at the mirror again. The boy looking back still has the scar, still has the eyes, still looks too wary for his age. But he looks different. He looks like he belongs to something. That is the most dangerous feeling of all, because belonging creates things to lose. A knock comes at the door. Not loud, not demanding, just a single, controlled tap. Harry's spine stiffens automatically. The door opens, and a witch steps in. She is older, severe-looking, dressed in dark robes that make her blend into the manor's shadow. Her hair is tightly pinned. Her eyes are cool and assessing. "Harry Potter," she says, voice crisp. Harry doesn't answer, because he isn't sure if answering is allowed. The witch's gaze flickers to Dobby, and the elf bows so hard it looks like it might fold in half. "Excellent," the witch says, and Harry realizes she is speaking about him, not Dobby. "You will come with me. Lady Malfoy awaits." Harry's stomach twists. Lady Malfoy. He follows the witch out into the corridor, and the manor swallows him. The hallways are vast, lined with portraits that watch him with eyes that feel too alive. Some of them whisper, some of them sneer, some of them look curious, like they are seeing a rare animal brought into a house that prides itself on purity. Harry keeps his eyes forward, because looking at portraits feels like inviting judgment. They descend a staircase that curves like a spine, polished wood and carved stone gleaming with cold wealth. Harry's shoes barely make a sound. The witch's steps are precise, rhythmic, like she is measuring distance. They enter the dining hall. The room is enormous, dominated by a long mahogany table that could seat 20. Silver candlesticks line the center. Plates and goblets are arranged with perfect symmetry. A chandelier hangs overhead like frozen light. At the head of the table sits Lucius Malfoy. He is dressed in black, his hair pale as moonlight. He holds a goblet loosely in one hand, as if even drinking is an act of control. Beside him sits Narcissa. She wears pale robes that make her look like a carved statue, elegant and untouchable. Her gaze lands on Harry immediately, not soft, not warm, but focused. She rises. Harry freezes. At Privet Drive, adults rising meant punishment was coming. Here, it means something else. Something Harry doesn't understand. Narcissa approaches and stops in front of him. She looks down at him, taking in the clothes, the neat collar, the cleaned hair. She studies him like a sculptor studies marble. Then she reaches out and touches his cheek with 2 fingers. Harry flinches reflexively. Her hand pauses. Her eyes narrow slightly. And in that narrowing is something sharp, almost painful to witness, because it is fury disguised as control. Not fury at Harry, fury at what was done to him. She lowers her hand slowly. "You will not flinch from touch in this house," Narcissa says quietly. "Not because I will punish you, because you will not be made small here." Harry's breath catches. He doesn't understand the statement, but he feels the intention. Lucius speaks from the head of the table. "Sit," he says. It is not a request. Harry looks for where to sit. Narcissa gestures to a chair near Draco's. Draco. Harry sees him then. Draco Malfoy sits at the table, small but already composed in a way Harry has never been. He wears robes that fit perfectly, his pale hair combed neatly. He looks at Harry with a mix of curiosity and something that might be irritation, as if Harry's presence is an interruption in a life that was already planned. Draco's eyes flick to Harry's scar, then away, as if looking too long would be rude. Harry moves to the chair and sits carefully back straight, hands folded, because he has learned that taking up space is dangerous. Food appears on the table, not placed by servants, not carried in. It simply arrives, warm and steaming, as if the manor itself decided Harry should eat. There are eggs, bacon, toast, fruit, pastries dusted with sugar. There is more food than Harry has seen in one place in his entire life. Harry stares at it, motionless. Lucius watches him. Narcissa watches him, trying to look like he isn't. Harry's throat tightens again, because he is hungry, and hunger is a kind of shame when you have been taught to hide it. Narcissa speaks, voice gentle in a way that is almost terrifying because it is controlled. "Eat," she says. Harry looks at her. He expects a trick. He expects them to laugh when he reaches for food. He expects the plate to vanish. But Narcissa's gaze does not waver. So Harry reaches out. His fingers tremble slightly as he picks up a piece of toast. He takes a bite. The bread is warm. Butter melts on his tongue. The taste is so rich it feels unreal. Harry chews slowly, trying not to look desperate. Draco speaks for the first time, voice sharp with the arrogance of a child who has never been denied. "Is he going to live here forever?" Draco asks. Narcissa's gaze cuts to Draco. "Draco," she says, and Draco's posture stiffens immediately. Lucius, however, smiles faintly. "He is here as long as he needs to be," Lucius says, tone smooth. "And he will learn what it means to be one of us." Draco's eyes narrow. "He's not one of us," Draco says bluntly. "He's a Potter." Lucius's smile sharpens slightly. "A Potter," he agrees. "An ancient line. A valuable line. A line that made unfortunate choices." Narcissa's eyes flicker, cold. Lucius continues, voice like silk over steel. "And now," he says, "that line has been reclaimed." Harry swallows hard. Reclaimed. Like he was lost property. Like he was stolen and returned. Like he is not a person, but an heirloom. Narcissa sits beside him again, and Harry notices something. Her hand, resting near her plate, is close enough that if he moved his own hand, he might touch it. He doesn't, but the option existing at all is dizzying. Breakfast continues in controlled silence. Draco eats neatly, confidently. Lucius sips his drink and watches the room like a man monitoring a system. Narcissa eats very little, her attention occasionally returning to Harry as if checking that he is still there, still real. When Harry finishes, Narcissa nods once, satisfied. "Good," she says quietly as if eating is an achievement. Lucius sets down his goblet. "Today begins your education," he says. Harry's stomach drops. Education means rules. Rules mean failure. Failure means punishment. But Lucius is not Vernon. His punishments, Harry will learn, are not loud. They are not chaotic. They are deliberate. And sometimes they are worse. Lucius rises and walks toward Harry. Harry tenses automatically. Lucius stops in front of him, towering. He looks down at Harry's face, at the scar, at the eyes. Then he lifts his cane slightly and uses the tip to tilt Harry's chin up. Not roughly, not gently, precisely. "A wizard's face," Lucius says quietly, "should never be lowered in shame. Do you understand?" Harry's throat tightens. He nods. Lucius's eyes narrow. "I asked if you understand," he says. Harry forces his voice out. "Yes," he whispers. Lucius's expression shifts slightly, satisfied. "Good," he says. "You will learn to speak clearly. You know what silence looks like. In this house, silence is a weapon, not a habit of fear." Harry doesn't understand. Not fully. But he feels the words sink into him like seeds. Lucius turns and walks away, expecting Harry to follow. Harry slides out of his chair and follows because following is safer than staying. They move through corridors that seem endless. The manor is a maze of wealth and shadow. Harry tries to remember turns, tries to map it in his mind the way he mapped the Dursleys' moods, because knowing the environment is survival. They enter a room that feels different. It is a study, lined floor to ceiling with books. Not decorative books, not fake spines, real books, old books, books that smell like dust and ink and magic. A fire crackles quietly in the hearth, but even the fire feels controlled, as if it knows it is in Malfoy territory. Lucius gestures towards a chair. "Sit," he says. Harry sits. Lucius moves to the desk and opens a drawer, Retrieving a parchment, he places it on the table in front of Harry. Harry looks down. It is blank. He looks up, confused. Lucius taps his wand against the parchment. Words appear. Not childish handwriting, not simple phrases. The script is elegant, sharp, almost cruel in its precision. Lucius speaks, voice steady. "You will learn names," he says. "You will learn why blood matters, why family matters, why power is not simply taken but maintained." Harry's stomach twists. Blood, family, power. These words feel dangerous. But Lucius continues like a man delivering a lesson that has been prepared for years. "You were left in the hands of muggles," Lucius says, "not because you deserved it, because Albus Dumbledore is a sentimental fool who believes suffering builds character." Harry's eyes flicker. He doesn't know who Dumbledore is, but he knows suffering, and hearing an adult speak of it like it's wrong is so strange it makes his chest ache. "You were saved," Lucius says. Harry's heart skips. "Saved." Lucius leans forward slightly. "You were reclaimed," he corrects smoothly. "Do not mistake the two." Harry swallows. Lucius's gaze is sharp. "Your parents were potters," Lucius says, tone almost dismissive. An ancient line that squandered its influence for the sake of ideology. They died because they believed love and morality could protect them from reality. Harry's fingers curl slightly. Something inside him reacts to the mention of parents. Not memory, because he has none, but a phantom ache, a missing piece. Narcissa's earlier words come back to him. "Your parents were tragic fools betrayed by Dumbledore's sentimentality." It feels like a story being planted. Lucius's voice lowers. "You are not their mistakes," he says. "You are what remains. And in this house, we do not waste what remains." Harry looks down at the parchment again, at the crisp script, at the list of names and families and dates. He doesn't understand it, but he understands one thing. His life has become a project, and Lucius Malfoy is the architect. Over the next weeks, Harry's days become structured in a way he has never experienced. At Privet Drive, time was chaos, ruled by Vernon's moods and Petunia's disgust. At the Manor, time is a schedule. Harry wakes early. He is dressed by Dobby and a team of silent servants, his clothes always perfect, always chosen to present him as something valuable. He eats breakfast under Narcissa's watchful gaze. He sits in the study with Lucius, learning history, learning etiquette, learning how to speak without hesitation. He learns how to walk, not just how to move, but how to exist. Lucius corrects posture with the tap of a cane. He corrects tone with a single lifted eyebrow. He corrects language by making Harry repeat sentences until the words sound like they belong to someone born into wealth rather than dragged from a cupboard. Harry hates it, and Harry craves it. Because correction is attention, and attention is something he has never had. Narcissa, meanwhile, becomes his anchor in a way Harry cannot name. She does not hug him. She does not speak in soft bedtime voices. She does not offer the kind of affection storybooks promise. But she is there. She ensures his meals are warm. She ensures his clothes fit. She ensures that the servants treat him with respect. She ensures that when Harry wakes from nightmares shaking and silent, the door to his room is never locked, and a cup of calming tea appears on the bedside table before morning. Harry never sees her bring it, but it is always there. He begins to understand that Narcissa Malfoy's love is not loud. It is an invisible system of protection, and Draco is woven into it. Draco begins as a rival in his own home, a child who sees Harry as an intrusion. But the manor is designed for heirs, and Draco has been raised to understand one truth. What the Malfoys claim, the Malfoys keep. If Harry is claimed, then Harry is part of the dynasty. And dynasties do not tolerate weakness. Draco begins to test Harry. He tests him with sharp words, with cold stares, with subtle cruelty disguised as curiosity. Harry responds the way he knows how, by becoming smaller, quieter, invisible. But invisibility does not work here. Lucius notices. One afternoon, Draco shoves Harry lightly in the corridor. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to see if Harry flinches. Harry flinches. Lucius's voice cuts through the air. Draco. Draco freezes. Lucius steps forward, calm as ever, and looks down at both boys. Do you know what you just did? Lucius asks Draco. Draco swallows. I tested him, Draco says, trying to sound confident. Lucius nods once. And what did you learn? Draco hesitates. Lucius's eyes narrow slightly. Draco's voice grows quieter. He flinches, Draco admits. Lucius turns his gaze to Harry. Why did you flinch? He asks. Harry's throat tightens. He doesn't answer. Lucius's voice becomes colder. Answer, he says. Harry forces words out, barely audible. Because he pushed me. Lucius's gaze sharpens. No, he says. That is what happened. That is not why. Harry's eyes widen slightly, confused. Lucius steps closer, lowering his voice. You flinched, he says, because you have been trained to expect pain from touch. Harry's breath catches. Lucius straightens. In this house, he says, we do not flinch. Not because we are fearless, but because we decide what touches us. Do you understand? Harry nods quickly. Lucius looks at Draco. And you, he says, will not treat him like a toy. He is not a plaything. He is an heir under my roof. Draco's face flushes slightly with resentment and something else, something complicated. Yes, father, Draco mutters. Lucius's gaze returns to Harry. You will practice, he says. Stand. Harry stands, heart hammering. Lucius lifts his cane and taps Harry's shoulder lightly. Harry flinches. Lucius taps again. Harry flinches again. Lucius keeps tapping, steady, controlled, like a metronome. Harry's breathing becomes rapid. His hands clench. His instincts scream. But Lucius's voice remains calm. Again, he says, you will not be ruled by your past. Tap. Harry flinches less. Tap. Less. Tap. By the time Lucius stops, Harry is shaking, but he is still standing. Lucius nods once. Good, he says, as if Harry has survived a duel. Harry realizes then that the manor's discipline is not meant to break him. It is meant to reshape him, to erase the cupboard, to carve a prince out of a survivor. And that is when Harry begins to understand the true danger of Malfoy Manor. It will give him everything he has ever wanted. Warmth, food, attention, power, belonging, and it will attach those gifts to strings so fine he won't see them until he can't breathe without them. Because Lucius Malfoy is not raising a child. He is raising an investment, and the world beyond the manor walls is watching, even if Harry doesn't know it yet. The press begins to whisper. The wizarding world begins to gossip. Some call it a miracle. Some call it theft. Some call it corruption. But everyone agrees on one thing. Harry Potter has been taken. And whether he is being saved or being claimed depends entirely on who tells the story. Inside the manor, Harry's own story is being rewritten in real time. His name is still Harry Potter, but his identity is being polished, sharpened, molded. Narcissa begins calling him my boy in private moments, explains to him the basic truths of their world. Magic exists. Blood matters. The Malfoy name carries weight. She tells him gently, and sometimes with flashes of bitterness, that Dumbledore failed him, that Dumbledore left him to rot for the sake of some protection charm, that the world praised the headmaster, while a child suffered. Harry listens because he wants to believe her, because believing her means the cupboard was not his fault. Lucius teaches him something darker, that gratitude is power. That name, Lucius tells him one night, gesturing toward the mantle, is a fortress. It has protected our blood for centuries. It will protect you too. But fortresses are not free. Harry looks at the crest, the serpent entwined in silver. What do I have to do? Harry asks quietly. Lucius smiles. You will spend your life, he says, making sure the world knows you are worth the investment. Harry doesn't fully understand. Not yet. But the words lodge inside him like a spell. And in the weeks that follow, something happens that changes everything again. Harry's magic stirs. It begins with small things. A glass shattering when Harry is startled. A book sliding across a table when he is angry. A candle flaring too bright when he is frightened. At Privet Drive, those moments were punished. They were called freakish. They were treated like crimes. At Malfoy Manor, they are observed, catalogued, encouraged. Lucius watches the candle flare one evening, eyes narrowing with interest rather than disgust. Narcissa's lips part slightly, as if she is both relieved and worried. Draco stares with sharp envy. Lucius sets down his goblet. So, he murmurs, the blood is awake. Harry looks at the candle, frightened. Did I do that? He whispers. Lucius's gaze locks onto him. Yes, he says simply. And now we begin properly. The first time Harry understands that Malfoy Manor is not simply a home, but a machine, is the day Lucius gives him a mirror. It is not an ordinary mirror. Nothing in the manor is ordinary. The frame is silver, worked into the shape of two serpents, whose bodies twist upward to meet at the top, mouths open as if whispering secrets to each other. The glass is perfectly clear, too clear, showing every detail with clinical honesty. Lucius places it on a table in the study and gestures for Harry to stand in front of it. Harry is 5. 5 is an age where children should be round with laughter, where hands should be sticky with sweets and minds full of nonsense. Harry is not round with anything. He is thin, sharp-edged, watchful. His laughter is rare. His silence is practiced. His eyes have learned to measure adults the way adults measure threats. He stands in front of the mirror. Lucius stands behind him, hands clasped loosely around the head of his cane. What do you see? Lucius asks. Harry stares at his reflection. He sees black hair combed neat. He sees skin that is no longer grey from hunger, though it still looks pale against the manor's shadows. He sees a collar sitting perfectly against his throat. He sees the scar. He knows the scar now. He knows what it means because Narcissa told him. Because portraits whispered. Because books in Lucius's study said his name like a prophecy. It is the mark that makes him important. It is the mark that makes him watched. A boy, Harry answers carefully. Lucius's reflection lifts an eyebrow. A boy, he repeats, tone mild, almost amused. That is what you were in Little Whinging. Harry's stomach tightens. Lucius leans forward slightly, voice lowering. What are you now? He asks. Harry doesn't know what the right answer is. He feels that right answers matter here. He feels the invisible tension in the room, the way the manor itself seems to pause when Lucius asks a question. He tries again. A wizard, Harry says. Lucius nods once, as if acknowledging progress. And, he prompts, Harry swallows. His fingers curl slightly at his sides. A Malfoy, he says, barely audible. The words feel dangerous in his mouth, like claiming something too big. Behind him, Lucius smiles. Not warm, satisfied. Better, Lucius says, but still incomplete. He taps the cane lightly against the floor. The sound is sharp, crisp, like punctuation. You are a Potter, he says. A bloodline older than the ministry, older than the families who sit in the Wisengamot and pretend their influence is inherited rather than stolen. You are also a Malfoy now, because we have claimed you. That makes you something rare. Harry's reflection blinks. Lucius's voice becomes smooth, almost gentle the way a blade might feel gentle before it cuts. You are a prince, Lucius says. Harry's chest tightens. Prince. The word still doesn't fit. Lucius continues as if Harry hasn't reacted at all. But understand this, he says. Princes are not coddled. Princes are not allowed to be weak. Princes do not flinch. Princes do not beg. Princes do not whine for affection like street animals. Princes are forged. Harry looks at the scar. He remembers Narcissa's fingertips brushing hair away to reveal it like unveiling a jewel. He remembers Dobby calling him Master Harry with worshipful fear. He remembers Draco staring at him like an intruder who somehow became family without permission. He remembers the cupboard. He doesn't know what forged means exactly, but he understands the shape of it. Lucius steps closer and places 2 fingers under Harry's chin, tilting his face slightly. Not harsh, but controlling. Look at yourself, Lucius says. The world will look at you and see a symbol. That scar will open doors and start wars. Do you understand? Harry's voice catches. Yes, he whispers. Lucius's eyes narrow. No whispers, he says calmly. Speak. Harry forces his voice louder. Yes, he says, voice trembling slightly. Lucius releases him. Good, he says. Now we begin. The forging begins in small ways first, disguised as refinement. Narcissa takes charge of making Harry presentable to society, though society at this stage is mostly the manor itself. Its portraits, its visitors, its invisible network of gossip. She teaches him how to sit without fidgeting, how to hold cutlery correctly, how to speak without sounding desperate, how to walk through rooms as if you belong to them, even if you don't. But Narcissa's lessons are not only etiquette, they are identity. She tells him stories about the wizarding world while brushing his hair, her voice soft with careful control. She tells him about Hogwarts, the castle where witches and wizards are trained. She tells him about houses, about history, about old families. She tells him about James and Lily Potter in a way that feels like a carefully polished narrative rather than truth. They were brave, she says once, sounding faintly contemptuous. But bravery without intelligence is suicide. Harry sits still while she smooths his hair. Did they love me? He asks quietly. The question slips out before he can stop it. Narcissa's hand pauses. For the first time, Harry sees something raw flicker across her face, something like pain. It is gone almost instantly, replaced by the marble control she wears like armor. Yes, she says, voice steady. They loved you. They died for you. But love did not save them. Harry swallows. Why did I have to live there? He asks, voice low. With the Dursleys, Narcissa's eyes sharpen, and the air in the room turns colder. Because Albus Dumbledore decided your life was a chessboard, she says softly. He decided your suffering was acceptable if it served his plan. Harry doesn't fully understand chessboards and plans, but he understands that Narcissa is angry, not at him, at someone else, someone powerful. It makes Harry feel strangely safe, like her anger is a wall between him and the world. He holds on to that feeling. He doesn't realize yet that walls can become cages. Lucius's lessons are different. Lucius does not teach with stories. He teaches with pressure. He begins with language, because language is the first form of control. He corrects Harry's grammar, his tone, his posture. He makes Harry repeat statements until they sound like they belong to someone born into power. And then, when Harry turns 6, Lucius introduces him to the first true discipline of Malfoy survival. He calls it composure. But that word is too gentle. What he is really teaching Harry is how to become unreadable. The first exercise is simple. Lucius sits Harry in a chair in the study and places a small object on the table in front of him, a silver coin. Harry stares at it. "What is it?" Lucius asks. "A coin," Harry answers. Lucius nods. "Tell me how you feel about it," he says. Harry frowns, confused. I don't feel anything," he says. Lucius smiles faintly. "You feel confusion," he says. "I can see it. Your eyebrows tightened, your eyes narrowed, your mouth moved before you spoke. Your body betrays you constantly." Harry's stomach drops. He didn't know adults could see those things. Lucius continues, voice calm. "In politics," he says, "your body is your first enemy. It will reveal fear. It will reveal desire. It will reveal weakness. A wizard who can be read is a wizard who can be controlled." Harry sits still, chest tight. Lucius taps the coin lightly. "Look at it," he says. "Now think of something that makes you angry." Harry's mind flashes to Vernon's hand, to Petunia's voice, to the cupboard door slamming shut. Heat rises in his chest. Lucius watches. "I see it," Lucius says softly. "Your jaw clenched. Your breathing changed. Your fingers tightened. That is unacceptable." Harry's heart hammers. "How do I stop?" he asks quietly. Lucius leans forward. "You decide," he says. "You do not let emotion happen to you. You command it." Harry stares at him, confused and desperate. Lucius straightens. "This is the difference between peasants and aristocrats," he says. "Peasants feel. Aristocrats use feeling when it serves them and bury it when it does not." Harry doesn't want to be a peasant. He has spent his whole life being treated like dirt. The idea that he can escape that by learning control hooks into him like a lifeline. So he tries. He thinks of anger and forces his face still. Lucius watches with the patience of a man training an animal into something sharper. "Again," he says, and again, and again, until Harry can think of the cupboard and keep his hands from shaking. Until Harry can imagine Vernon's face and keep his mouth from trembling. Until Harry can feel fear and hold it behind his eyes like a locked door. Lucius nods once, satisfied. "Good," he says. "That is the beginning." It doesn't take long for Draco to notice something has changed. Draco is not stupid. Draco is raised to observe, raised to compete, raised to be the best, because the Malfoy name demands it. He begins watching Harry like a rival. At first, Draco tries to regain dominance the way he always does, by being louder, by being sharper, by reminding Harry that Draco was born into this life, and Harry was not. "You don't even know how to bow properly," Draco sneers one afternoon, when Narcissa has left them alone in the sitting room. "You look like a muggle when you do it." Harry's face stays blank. He bows again. Perfectly. Draco's eyes narrow. "You're copying me," Draco snaps. Harry's voice is quiet and controlled. "I'm learning," he says. Draco flushes. "It's my house," Draco says. Harry looks at him, calm. "It's our house," Harry says. The words land like a slap. Draco goes silent. Harry doesn't understand why Draco looks hurt, because hurt is not a thing Draco is allowed to show. Draco storms out of the room, and Harry sits still, staring at the fire, feeling something strange in his chest. He doesn't know if it's victory. He doesn't know if it's guilt. He doesn't know if it's loneliness. The two of them become an orbit, sometimes pulling close, sometimes colliding, always aware of each other, like two pieces of a single future. Lucius shapes them differently. Draco is encouraged to be proud, loud, obvious. Draco is meant to be the public face of Malfoy arrogance, the heir everyone expects. Harry is encouraged to be quiet, calculated, sharp in subtler ways. Harry is meant to be the weapon no one sees coming. Lucius never says that directly. He doesn't have to. Harry feels it in the way Lucius watches him, in the way Lucius corrects him more harshly when he slips, in the way Lucius's approval feels like the only warmth Harry truly craves besides Narcissa's silent protection. The first time Lucius truly tests Harry's new discipline is at a dinner. Visitors have come to the manor. A few pure-blood families, old names, polite smiles that hide knives. Narcissa sits at Lucius's side like a statue of elegance. Draco sits near them, perfectly dressed, perfectly trained. And Harry sits beside Draco, wearing emerald robes and the Malfoy signet ring Lucius has placed on his finger. The ring feels heavy. It is not just jewelry. It is ownership. The visitors look at Harry like he is a curiosity, like he is an imported object. One man, older, with a stiff posture and cruel eyes, leans forward slightly. "So," he says smoothly, "this is him, the famous boy." The man's gaze flicks to the scar. "How fortunate," the man continues, "that you were found before the Muggles could ruin you completely." Harry's chest tightens. He wants to speak. He wants to say, "They already did." He wants to say, "He is not ruined." He wants to say something sharp enough to cut. But Lucius's voice echoes in his mind. "Your body betrays you constantly." Harry holds still. The man smiles. "And tell me," he says, "do you remember them, your Muggle family? Do you miss them?" Harry's fingers twitch. Draco glances at him, curious. Narcissa's gaze sharpens. Lucius remains perfectly still. Harry's throat tightens. This is a trap. If he says yes, he looks weak, sentimental, ungrateful. If he says no, he looks cold, inhuman, a monster. Lucius watches him without moving. Harry realizes in that moment that Lucius is not going to rescue him. This is the forge. Harry lifts his head slightly. He speaks, voice clear and calm, the way Lucius trained him. "I remember enough," Harry says, "to know I don't belong there." The man's smile widens, pleased. "And do you belong here?" he presses. Harry meets his gaze, green eyes steady. "I do," Harry says. The words feel like stepping into armor. Lucius's mouth curves faintly, satisfied. Narcissa's expression remains controlled, but her hand tightens slightly on her goblet, as if she is holding something back. The man leans back, pleased. "A Malfoy," he says approvingly. "Indeed." The dinner continues. Harry eats without shaking. He answers questions without flinching. He smiles when expected. He stays still when insulted. By the time the visitors leave, Harry's body aches with the effort of control. But Lucius stops him in the corridor afterward. He places a hand on Harry's shoulder. Harry does not flinch. Lucius's voice is quiet, almost approving. "Good," he says. "You understand." Harry's chest tightens with a strange rush of relief. Approval. It is addictive. Lucius leans down slightly, voice low enough that only Harry hears. "One day," Lucius says, "you will sit in rooms like that and everyone will fear you. Not because you shout, because they will know you cannot be moved." Harry swallows. "Yes," he says. Lucius straightens and walks away. Harry stands in the corridor alone, staring at the floor, feeling the manor's cold luxury press around him like a weight. That night, Harry lies in his enormous bed, staring at the ceiling. He thinks about belonging. He thinks about the ring on his finger. He thinks about Narcissa's hand tightening at the dinner. He thinks about Draco's eyes watching him, like a rival who might also be a brother. He thinks about Lucius calling him a prince. And for the first time since leaving Privet Drive, Harry feels something dangerous grow inside him. Not fear, not shame, ambition. Not the childish ambition of wanting toys or sweets. A colder ambition, the desire to never be powerless again. The desire to never be owned again. He doesn't realize it yet, but that ambition is not purely Malfoy. It is Potter. It is the ancestral fire Lucius hasn't managed to extinguish. And soon, Lucius is going to teach him the next discipline. The one that will lock Harry's mind behind walls so high even Harry can't see over them. Occlumency. Lucius does not begin occlumency with a wand. He begins it with a rule. Harry is 7 when he is first told. They are in the study, the same room where Harry learned to hold his face still, to speak clearly, to swallow fear without letting it leak through his hands. The fire is low. The shelves are full of old books that smell like dust and old power. A storm taps rain against the tall windows, and the sound is faint, like the manor is breathing. Lucius stands by the desk, sorting parchments with the calm precision of a man arranging weapons. Narcissa sits by the fire with a book in her lap, not reading, watching. Draco is not there. Draco has been sent away, told to practice his dueling footwork in the hall with a tutor. Harry sits in the chair opposite Lucius, back straight, hands folded. Lucius looks up. From this day forward, he says, voice quiet and absolute, you will never cry in this house. Harry's stomach drops. Crying is not something Harry does often anymore, but it happens. It happens in his sleep sometimes, silent, when nightmares squeeze his chest, and he wakes up shaking. It happens when the cupboard comes back in his mind, and he can't stop it. It happens when his body remembers pain and humiliation too suddenly. Lucius's gaze sharpens. Do you understand? He asks. Harry forces his voice steady. Yes, he says. Lucius nods once. Narcissa's fingers tighten around her book. Lucius, she says softly, warning. Lucius does not look at her. This is not cruelty, he says calmly, as if answering a question no one asked. It is survival. Harry's throat tightens. Lucius steps toward him. You are Harry Potter, Lucius says, and you are mine. The world will pull at you. The world will try to shape you. The world will try to use you as a symbol for their causes. If you cry, if you break, if you show weakness, they will own you. Harry's fingers twitch slightly, but he keeps them still. Lucius's voice lowers. The only person who should ever be able to touch your mind, he says, is you. Harry swallows. And me? He asks without thinking. Because Lucius has been shaping him for years, and in Harry's mind, Lucius is already part of his self. Lucius pauses. For a heartbeat, something unreadable flickers in his eyes. Then he smiles faintly. I will teach you, Lucius says, so that one day you no longer need me to protect you. The words should feel generous. They feel like chains being placed carefully around Harry's throat. Lucius moves to the desk and opens a drawer. He removes a small book, thin, bound in black leather, with no title. He places it on the table between them. Harry looks at it. Lucius taps it once with his finger. This is not a book, Lucius says. It is a doorway. Harry's breath catches. Narcissa's gaze sharpens. Lucius continues, voice calm. Occlumency, he says. The art of sealing the mind. The art of closing your thoughts behind walls that no one can see through. Harry looks down at the black cover. Legilimency, Lucius adds, is the art of opening other minds. Reading, searching, pulling. Most people fear the spell because they think it is like someone reading a diary. Lucius's eyes lift to Harry's face. It is not, he says softly. It is like someone taking your diary and rewriting it while you watch. Harry's chest tightens. He thinks of the Dursleys, of how they rewrote his life by denying him truth. He thinks of Narcissa, telling him stories about his parents, about Dumbledore, about why he suffered. He thinks of Lucius framing the rescue as reclamation, and he realizes something with sudden, sharp clarity. His story has already been rewritten once. He doesn't want it rewritten again. Lucius sees the shift in Harry's eyes and nods, pleased. Good, Lucius says. You understand why this matters. Narcissa's voice is quiet. How early? She asks. Lucius doesn't look at her. Early enough, he replies. Narcissa's eyes flick briefly to Harry's scar, then back to Lucius. Her expression stays calm, but Harry has learned to read the micro-movements in her face. He sees it. Fear. Not fear of Harry. Fear of what Lucius is doing to him. But Narcissa does not stop it, because Narcissa Malfoy's love, for all its sharp edges, is still trapped inside the same machine, the same dynasty, the same rules, and Lucius is the engineer. The first lesson is not magic. The first lesson is memory. Lucius leans forward slightly. Close your eyes, he says. Harry closes them. Tell me what you see, Lucius says. Harry hesitates. He sees darkness. He sees the inside of his eyelids. Then something else pushes forward, uninvited, the cupboard, the smell of dust and bleach, the scratch of rough wood against his cheek, the sound of Vernon's voice booming above him like thunder, the hum of the house at night, the quiet cruelty of being locked away. Harry's breathing shifts. Lucius's voice is calm. I can hear it, he says softly. Your breath changed. Your body betrayed you. Harry's hands clench slightly. Stop, Lucius says. Open your eyes. Harry opens them, blinking hard. Lucius watches him closely. That memory, Lucius says, is a crack in your fortress. It is a door. If a skilled legilimens finds it, they will walk through it, and everything behind it will be exposed. Harry's throat tightens. How do I close it? Harry asks quietly. Lucius smiles faintly. You build walls, he says, and you decide what is inside them. Harry stares at him. Lucius taps the black book gently. This will teach you structure, he says. But structure is not enough. You must learn discipline. You must learn to feel without showing it, to remember without falling into the memory. Harry's stomach twists. Lucius's eyes sharpen. Do you think you can do that? He asks. Harry's answer is immediate. Yes, he says. Lucius nods. Good, he says, as if Harry has already proven himself. The lessons begin in earnest. At first, Lucius uses guided meditation, making Harry sit in silence for long stretches, forcing him to focus on his breathing, on the sensation of his own heartbeat. Harry hates it. Silence makes his mind wander. Wandering leads to memories. Memories lead to pain. Lucius is relentless. Every time Harry's face tightens, Lucius corrects it. Every time Harry's fingers twitch, Lucius makes him start over. Every time Harry looks like he might cry, Lucius's voice becomes colder, sharper. Again, he says, Harry learns to swallow everything. He learns to lock thoughts away in compartments. He learns to picture his mind as a room with doors that can be shut. Lucius pushes harder. He begins using low-level legilimency, flicking his wand and forcing Harry to feel the sensation of invasion. It is not violent at first. It is like a cold wind slipping under a door. Harry flinches. Lucius's voice is calm, almost clinical. Stop it, he says. Push back. Harry doesn't know how. He tries to imagine a wall. He tries to imagine closing a door. The cold wind slips deeper. Harry's head aches. Lucius's voice is steady. Again, he says. Harry fails. Again, fails. Until one day, something changes. It happens during a lesson where Lucius pushes too far, too fast. Harry is exhausted. His head hurts. His hands are clenched so tight his nails have left crescents in his palms. Lucius flicks his wand again, and the cold invasion surges. Harry's mind flashes to the cupboard, not as memory, as rage, a hot, sharp, ancestral rage that doesn't feel learned. It feels inherited. The invasion touches the memory, and Harry's mind snaps shut, not gently, violently. The cold wind slams into a wall so hard it rebounds. Lucius stumbles back half a step, eyes widening. Harry's breathing is harsh. His vision swims. He has no idea what he just did. Lucius stares at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile spreads across Lucius's face. It is the most pleased Harry has ever seen him. "Excellent," Lucius says softly. "There you are." Harry blinks, confused. Lucius steps closer, eyes bright with something like triumph. "You didn't imagine a wall," Lucius says. "You became one." Harry's chest tightens. He feels dizzy. Lucius's voice drops almost reverent. "You have the potential to be untouchable," he says. Harry's throat goes dry. Untouchable. That word feels like safety. It also feels like loneliness, because untouchable means no one can reach you. Not enemies, not even mothers. In the weeks that follow, the walls in Harry's mind rise higher. He becomes calmer, colder, more controlled. Narcissa watches him with a quiet tension that grows each day, as if she is seeing something she wanted being created, but also realizing what it will cost. Draco notices too. Draco's jealousy sharpens into something more complex: fear. Because Draco has been raised to be the heir, the obvious heir, the one who shines in public. But now there is another boy in the manor, a boy with a scar that makes the world tremble. And that boy is being trained in ways Draco is not. Draco begins trying to pull Harry back into childish closeness, not out of kindness, but out of instinct. Draco understands power even at 7, and he understands that if Harry becomes too distant, too separate, Draco might be left behind. He tries games. He tries teasing. He tries demanding. Harry responds with polite detachment. It infuriates Draco. One afternoon, Draco corners Harry in the corridor. "You think you're better than me?" Draco snaps. Harry's eyes lift to Draco's face. He keeps his expression calm. "I don't think that," Harry says. Draco's cheeks flush. "You look at me like I'm stupid," Draco says. Harry blinks once. "I look at you," Harry says carefully, "like you're loud." Draco recoils as if struck. Harry doesn't understand why that hurts Draco so much, but Narcissa does. That evening, Narcissa pulls Harry aside into a smaller sitting room, away from Lucius, away from the study, away from the machine. She sits across from him, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her face is composed, but her eyes are sharper than usual. "You are changing," she says quietly. Harry's chest tightens. He searches her face for disapproval. He finds none. He finds worry. "I'm learning," Harry says. Narcissa nods once. "Yes," she says. "You are." She reaches out slowly, gently, as if offering Harry the choice rather than forcing it. Her fingertips brush his hand. Harry does not flinch. He sits perfectly still. That, more than anything, makes Narcissa's expression crack. Her lips part slightly. Her eyes glimmer for a moment with something raw. "You used to reach for me," she whispers. Harry's throat tightens. He doesn't remember reaching. He remembers needing. He remembers her presence as warmth in a cold house. He begins, then stops because he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to speak emotion anymore. Lucius taught him that emotion is a weapon, and weapons are not given away freely. Narcissa's hand tightens slightly on his. "I did not save you," she says quietly, voice shaking just enough to be real, so you could become stone. Harry stares at her, confused. Stone is safe. Stone cannot be hurt. Stone cannot be locked in cupboards. Narcissa's gaze sharpens with sudden intensity. Promise me something, she says. Harry swallows. Yes, he says automatically, because promises are easy when you don't understand what they will cost. Narcissa's voice drops. Promise me you will always remember who you were, she says. Not the boy in the papers, not the prince, not the weapon. The boy, the small boy who needed kindness. Harry's mind flashes briefly to the cupboard. His walls rise instantly to block it. He feels Narcissa watching him, seeing the way he shuts down. Harry forces his voice steady. I remember, he says. Narcissa's eyes close for a moment, as if in pain. You don't, she whispers. Then she releases his hand and stands, her composure snapping back into place like armor locking. You will go back to your lessons, she says, voice controlled again. Your father expects it. Harry watches her walk away. He hears the words your father and feels something twist in his chest. Father. Lucius is not his father. Lucius is the man who took him. Lucius is the man who shaped him. Lucius is the man whose approval feels like oxygen. Harry doesn't know what that makes him. The first crack in Harry's worship of Lucius appears not in the study, not in an occlumency lesson, but in the library. Harry is 8. He has learned to read advanced texts. He has learned to memorize genealogies. He has learned to speak Latin phrases without stumbling. He is wandering the manor library late at night, a place he has begun to treat like a refuge. Books are safer than people. Books do not look at him with expectation. He pulls a volume from a shelf at random. The cover is old, leather cracked. He opens it. The title inside is written in elegant script, Decree for the Protection of Magical Minors. Harry's stomach tightens. He flips through the pages. His eyes catch on a section, annotated in neat, familiar handwriting. Lucius's handwriting. Harry's breath catches. The annotations are not about protecting children. They are about loopholes, about how to invoke the decree publicly, about how to frame a transfer in the press, about compensation, about collapsing wards. Harry's hands tremble slightly. He reads faster, eyes scanning, heart hammering. Lucius has notes about timing. Lucius has notes about how quickly Dumbledore would be alerted. Lucius has notes about ensuring the transfer was finalized before any interference could occur. Harry's throat goes dry. This isn't a law Lucius happened to know. This is a law Lucius built like a trap years ago. Harry stands frozen in the library, holding the book, realizing that the day he was rescued was not a spontaneous act of justice. It was a strategy, a plan, a masterstroke. He remembers Lucius's words, "You were reclaimed. Do not mistake it for saving." Harry's mind feels like it splits. One side of him wants to slam the book shut, pretend he never saw it, because if Lucius didn't save him, then what is this life? What is this warmth? What is Narcissa's protection? What is the food, the clothes, the bed? The other side of him feels something sharp and cold rise inside. Not betrayal exactly, something worse. Realization. Lucius did not take him because Harry mattered. Lucius took him because Harry was useful. Harry's walls rise automatically, sealing away the trembling. His face becomes blank. His breathing steadies. He closes the book and slides it back into its place. Then he stands there in the dark library, staring at the shelf. And for the first time in his life, Harry Potter forms a private thought he does not share with anyone. Not with Narcissa. Not with Draco. Not even with Lucius. If Lucius Malfoy took him as an investment, then Harry will become the most dangerous investment the wizarding world has ever seen. Not because he will serve Lucius, because he will make sure no one ever owns him again. The next morning, Lucius calls him into the study as usual. Harry sits. Lucius begins the lesson. He flicks his wand, probing Harry's mind, and Harry's walls hold perfectly. Lucius smiles, pleased, unaware that something has shifted. Harry smiles back, calm, obedient, the perfect prince. But behind his eyes, behind the walls, something new is growing. A double game, a secret, a private fire that Lucius cannot see. And it will change everything when Hogwarts finally comes. By the time Harry turns 11, Malfoy Manor has done its work. It has polished away the rough edges of the child who once smelled of dust and bleach. It has replaced fear with poise, hunger with discipline, desperation with a kind of controlled intensity that most adults mistake for confidence. It has dressed him in emerald and silver, trained his tongue to speak in measured phrases, trained his spine to stay straight, even when his stomach nods. If you looked at him now, you would not see the cupboard. You would see a boy who belongs to marble corridors and quiet power. You would see an heir. And that is exactly the point. Hogwarts is approaching like an inevitable storm. It hangs over Harry's life in every conversation, in every lesson, in every portrait's whisper. The manor speaks of Hogwarts the way kingdoms speak of coronations, not as a school, but as a stage. Lucius speaks of it in strategy. Narcissa speaks of it in preparation. Draco speaks of it like it is his birthright. Harry speaks of it hardly at all, because Harry has learned that the things you want most are the things you must hide. But inside, he is coiled, not with childish excitement, with anticipation, with fear, with a hunger so old it feels ancestral. Because Hogwarts is not just a castle. Hogwarts is the world. And Harry Potter has lived his entire life being shaped for the world's gaze. The letter arrives on a morning when the manor is unnaturally quiet. Harry is in the small sitting room with Narcissa, working through a book of wizarding etiquette that reads like law. Narcissa sits beside him, her posture flawless, her eyes sharp, correcting him when he pauses too long, when his phrasing becomes too casual. A sudden flutter of wings breaks the silence. An owl, large and brown, appears at the window, tapping insistently. Harry freezes. He has seen owls come to the manor before, delivering invitations, correspondence, and sealed documents. But this owl is not a Malfoy owl. Its feathers are ruffled. Its eyes are bright and impatient. It carries a thick envelope, sealed in green wax. Harry's breath catches. He knows that seal. Every wizarding child knows it. Hogwarts. Narcissa rises immediately, moving toward the window. With a flick of her wand, it opens. The owl swoops in, dropping the letter onto the table, and immediately flying back out as if it has done its duty and wants nothing to do with the manor's cold air. Harry stares at the envelope as if it might bite him. Narcissa picks it up and holds it for a moment, her fingers resting on the seal. Her face is composed, but her eyes soften for a heartbeat. "It begins," she murmurs. Harry's throat tightens. He reaches for the envelope slowly, careful, as if touching it will change him. His fingers close around it. He breaks the seal. The parchment inside unfolds neatly, and the words are formal, precise, undeniable. "Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." Harry's eyes move over the letter, reading each line with a strange numbness. The list of supplies follows: robes, books, a wand. A wand. Harry's hand tightens on the parchment. He has done magic in bursts, uncontrolled and instinctive. He has learned discipline, posture, mind walls, but he has never held a wand of his own. A wand is not just a tool. It is a declaration. It is a key. Narcissa watches him carefully. "You will be fitted properly," she says. "No second-hand nonsense. No embarrassment. You will represent this family. Harry swallows. Yes, he says, because yes is what he has been trained to say. But inside, behind his occlumency walls, something flickers. Not obedience, a quiet, private thought. I will represent myself. Lucius appears at the door, as if summoned by the shift in the house's energy. He steps into the room, robes immaculate, expression calm. He does not ask what happened. He looks at the letter in Harry's hands and understands immediately. His gaze sharpens, a faint satisfaction curling in his eyes. Good, he says. Narcissa turns her head slightly, watching him. Lucius's voice becomes smooth and deliberate. Hogwarts is not merely an education, he says. It is a proving ground. It is where alliances form and reputations are built. It is where power learns its shape. Harry keeps his face blank. Lucius approaches, stopping behind Harry's chair, looking down at the letter. You will be watched, Lucius says quietly, by teachers, by students, by the ministry, by the press. Harry's fingers tighten. Lucius's voice lowers. You will not embarrass us, he says. There is no warmth in the statement. Only expectation. Harry turns his head slightly, looking up at Lucius. Yes, he says. Lucius holds his gaze. For a moment, Harry feels the familiar pull, that old need for approval. It rises in him like thirst. Then he remembers the book in the library, the annotations, the trap. He keeps his face calm. Lucius nods once, satisfied. We leave for Diagon Alley tomorrow, Narcissa says, voice clipped, efficient. We will do this properly. Draco bursts into the room not long after, hair perfectly styled, eyes bright with excitement that he tries to hide behind arrogance. My letter, Draco says immediately, as if the world might have forgotten he exists. Did it come too? Narcissa smiles faintly. Of course, she says. It arrived earlier. Draco's face lights up. Harry watches Draco, and for a second something complicated twists in his chest. Draco is excited, genuinely, because Draco has been promised Hogwarts his whole life. Harry has been prepared for Hogwarts like a battlefield. That difference matters. The next day, Diagon Alley feels like stepping into a dream. Harry has been taught about it, shown illustrations, described the shops and the crowds, but seeing it is different. The leaky cauldron smells of smoke and old wood, packed with witches and wizards who glance up when the Malfoys enter, some with respect, some with fear, some with quiet dislike. Harry feels every gaze like pressure. Lucius walks as if he owns the space. Narcissa's chin is lifted, eyes sharp. Draco smirks, enjoying the attention. Harry moves with them, posture perfect, face blank, mind walls high. He can feel the whispers. He can feel the stares sliding toward his scar. It's not admiration, not exactly. It's fascination. It's hunger. Harry Potter is real. Harry Potter is here. And he is walking beside Lucius Malfoy. The first stop is Madame Malkin's for robes. Narcissa ensures Harry is measured precisely. The woman fusses over him, praising the quality of his posture, calling him a fine young man. Harry says nothing. He watches Draco preen under the attention. He feels Lucius's gaze on him like a weight. Then they move to flourish and blots. Lucius buys Harry every book on the list, plus several more. Ancient volumes on wizarding history, etiquette, dueling theory, and something Lucius calls strategic mind arts. Harry accepts the books silently, arms filling until a servant takes them. Narcissa buys him a small notebook, silver-edged. So you can write properly, she says. Harry runs his fingers over the notebook's cover, feeling something strange. A gift, not a tool, not a lesson. A gift. He doesn't thank her because saying thank you feels too vulnerable. Instead, he nods. Narcissa's eyes soften briefly, then harden again. The final stop is Ollivander's. The shop is narrow, dusty, filled with boxes stacked to the ceiling. The air smells of old wood and magic so thick it feels like breathing it in changes your blood. Harry's pulse quickens. Lucius's posture stiffens slightly, as if he dislikes being in a place he cannot fully control. Narcissa's gaze sharpens. Draco looks around with a mix of boredom and excitement. Mr. Ollivander appears like a ghost from the shadows, pale eyes bright. "Ah," he murmurs, voice soft with fascination. "Mr. Potter." Harry freezes. Ollivander steps forward slowly. "I remember," he says. "I remember your parents' wands very well." Harry's throat tightens. Ollivander's gaze flicks to Lucius, then to Narcissa, then back to Harry. "And I remember," he adds softly, "your scar." Lucius's voice is polite but sharp. "We are here for a wand," he says. Ollivander smiles faintly, as if amused that Lucius thinks he controls this moment. "Of course," Ollivander says. He begins pulling boxes, handing wands to Harry. "Try," he murmurs. Harry takes the first wand. He flicks it. Nothing happens. Ollivander snatches it back. Another wand. Another flick. A spark, weak, fizzles out. Ollivander frowns, intrigued. Draco watches with growing impatience. Lucius watches with cold intensity. Harry tries wand after wand. Nothing feels right. Until Ollivander hands him one that looks ordinary at first. A dark, smooth wood, slightly longer than the others, balanced in Harry's hand like it belongs. Harry grips it. A warmth spreads up his arm, sudden and undeniable. He flicks the wand. The air hums. The shelves shiver. Dust rises in a swirling spiral like a living thing. A burst of golden light flares from the wand tip, not violent, but brilliant, filling the shop with a sharp, clean radiance. Ollivander's eyes widen. "Excellent," he whispers. "Extraordinary." Lucius stiffens. Narcissa's breath catches. Draco's eyes narrow. Harry's heart hammers. It feels like the wand recognizes him, like it has been waiting. Ollivander speaks softly. "Holly," he says, 11 inches, and phoenix feather. Harry's breath catches again. Phoenix. Something ancient stirs in him at the word, something he cannot name. Ollivander's gaze becomes intense, almost reverent. "Curious," he murmurs. "Very curious." Ollivander smiles faintly. "The wand chooses the wizard," he says, "and this wand is brother to another." Harry's stomach drops. Lucius's eyes sharpen like knives. "A brother," he repeats. Ollivander's pale eyes lock onto Harry. "The phoenix that gave this feather," Ollivander says softly, "gave one other, a wand of yew." Silence floods the shop. Harry doesn't know what yew means, but he feels the shift in the air. Lucius knows. Narcissa knows. Draco knows. Even if he doesn't fully understand, Lucius's hand tightens slightly on his cane. Ollivander continues, voice low. "The other wand," he says, "belongs to the Dark Lord." Harry's breath catches. Dark Lord. The title feels like a shadow in Harry's blood, like the scar reacts to it. Lucius's face is perfectly still. Narcissa's eyes flash with something like fear. Harry stands frozen, wand still warm in his hand, realizing that even here, even in this moment of personal triumph, the past is reaching toward him. He leaves Ollivander's with a wand and a new weight in his chest. The week before, Hogwarts passes in a blur of preparation. Lucius drills Harry harder than ever. He increases the occlumency exercises, pushing Harry's walls until Harry's head aches. "People will try to read you," Lucius says. They will try to own you. They will try to manipulate you with pity, with praise, with fear. Do not allow it. Harry nods, face blank. Narcissa begins packing his trunk herself, overseeing every item, ensuring nothing is cheap, nothing is embarrassing. She places a small bottle of calming draught inside discreetly, and Harry pretends not to notice. Draco talks endlessly about Slytherin. Slytherin is where we belong, Draco says, voice full of certainty. Father says it's where the powerful go. It's where the real families are. Harry listens, saying little. In his mind, he has always assumed Slytherin too, not because he feels like a snake, but because Lucius built Slytherin into him like a blueprint. But then, late at night, Harry lies awake and thinks about the wand. Phoenix, Holly, the brother wand, the Dark Lord, and a strange thought forms behind his walls. What if I don't belong where Lucius wants me? The day of departure arrives like an execution, dressed as celebration. At King's Cross, the Muggle station is crowded, chaotic, loud. The Malfoys move through it like a blade through cloth, untouched by the noise. Narcissa's charm keeps grime from touching her. Lucius's gaze keeps people from lingering too close. Draco walks with his chin up. Harry walks between them, posture perfect, scar hidden beneath a carefully combed fringe. They reach the barrier. Harry has been told what to do. He has practiced. He has been instructed. Still, stepping through feels like crossing a boundary, not just between worlds, but between lives. Platform 9 3/4 bursts into existence in a rush of steam and noise and magic. Red train, families, owls, luggage, excited voices. Harry's heart hammers. He sees children laughing, parents hugging, tears, joy. It looks like a world he was never meant to enter. Lucius leans down slightly, voice low. Remember, he says, you represent us. Harry nods. Narcissa adjusts Harry's collar. She pauses, fingertips lingering for a heartbeat. Her voice is soft. You are not alone, she says quietly. And Harry wonders if she's trying to convince him or herself. Then Draco grabs Harry's sleeve. Come on, Draco says, eager. We need a compartment. A good one. They board the train. It is supposed to be a coronation. Draco and Harry take a private compartment near the front, Lucius ensuring it with a glance and a whispered word to an attendant. Their trunks are stowed. The door slides shut. Inside, the compartment feels like a small fortress compared to the chaos outside. Draco sits, immediately claiming the seat by the window like it is his throne. Harry sits opposite, back straight, hands folded. Draco looks at him, eyes bright. This is it, Draco says. This is where we become legends. Harry's throat tightens. Legends. He has been a legend since before he could speak, and he has never wanted it. But Draco wants it. Draco needs it. Harry watches Draco's excitement and feels something complicated twist in his chest again. Draco is a brother shaped by expectation. Harry is a brother shaped by survival. The train begins to move. London slides away. Draco talks about Slytherin again, about the common room, about the older students who will recognize them, about the way everyone will look at Harry and Draco and see the Malfoy legacy reborn. Harry listens, nodding occasionally, mind walls tight. A knock comes at the door. Draco stiffens, annoyed at the interruption. The door slides open, and a boy stands there. He is round-faced, red-haired, with freckles and curious eyes. His clothes look second-hand, slightly too big. His expression is open, uncertain. Sorry, the boy says. All the compartments are full. Can I sit here? Draco's face twists into immediate disdain. No, Draco says sharply. This compartment is taken. The boy's cheeks flush. He glances at Harry, then back to Draco. "Oh," he says quietly. "Right. Sorry." He begins to pull the door shut. Something in Harry shifts. Not thought. Instinct. He hears Narcissa's voice. "Remember who you were. The small boy who needed kindness." He hears Lucius's voice. Peasants feel. Aristocrats use feeling when it serves them. He sees the boy's two bog clothes and remembers his own. He sees the boy's uncertainty and remembers being unwanted. Before Harry can stop himself, he speaks. "It's fine," Harry says. Draco whirls. "What?" Draco snaps. Harry's face stays calm, but his voice is steady. "He can sit," Harry says. Draco's eyes widen in outrage. "We don't sit with—" Draco starts, then catches himself. Glancing at the boy hesitates, eyes wide, clearly unsure if he's about to be humiliated. Harry holds his gaze for a moment. "It's fine," Harry repeats. The boy steps inside slowly. "Thanks," he says quietly. "I'm Ron Weasley." The name lands like a stone. Weasley. Harry has heard it before, in the manor, spoken with contempt, spoken as if it tastes unpleasant. Draco's face hardens instantly. "Weasley?" Draco sneers. "Of course." Ron's ears go red. He sits awkwardly near the door, trying not to take up space. Harry watches Draco, then Ron, feeling the tension like electricity. Draco leans toward Harry, voice low. "What are you doing?" Draco hisses. "Father would—" Harry's eyes flick to Draco's. His voice is calm, almost cold. "Father isn't here," Harry says. Draco flinches as if struck. Harry realizes what he just said. Not because it's rude, because it's true. Draco leans back, staring at Harry like he doesn't recognize him. Ron watches them both, confused. The rest of the train ride becomes a strange balancing act. Draco tries to dominate the space with sharp comments and pure-blood superiority. Ron tries to ignore it, biting back retorts. Harry sits between them like a quiet blade, watching, measuring. It is the first time Harry feels himself acting without Lucius directing him, and it is frightening. Because acting on his own means stepping out of the shape the manor built. When the train finally arrives, Hogwarts appears like a myth made real, a castle rising out of darkness, lit by torches, perched above the lake like a fortress carved by giants. The air smells like damp stone and cold water. The night is alive with the sound of nervous excitement. Harry steps onto the platform and feels something twist in his chest. This is not Malfoy Manor. This is something older, something that does not care about Lucius. Draco walks beside him, jaw tight, eyes scanning for allies. Ron stays near Harry, unsure why he feels safer there. But he does. They are herded into boats, floating across the lake toward the castle. Harry watches the towers rise. Reflecting in the black water, he feels the scar on his forehead throb faintly, as if recognizing the place. Inside, the great hall is overwhelming. The ceiling is enchanted with stars. The candles float. The tables stretch endlessly. The students' voices rise like a wave. Harry walks in and immediately feels the gaze. Not just a few stares. Hundreds. The boy who lived. The Malfoy prince. The scandal. The mystery. Harry keeps his face blank, his mind sealed. Draco moves like he owns the hall. Ron looks pale, overwhelmed. Harry's heart hammers as they line up for the sorting. The sorting hat sits on the stool, ancient, patched, looking like an artifact that has seen too much. Harry's stomach twists. This is the moment the manor has been preparing for. Lucius expects Slytherin. Narcissa expects Slytherin, even if she doesn't say it. Draco expects Slytherin, because Draco cannot imagine another reality. Harry expects Slytherin because he has been trained to. But as the ceremony begins, as names are called and children are sorted, Harry feels something else. A quiet dread. Because Hogwarts is not controlled. Hogwarts is not a machine Lucius built. Hogwarts is alive, and alive things do not always obey. Finally, the voice calls, "Potter, Harry." Silence slams into the hall like a curse. Harry steps forward. He can feel every eye. He can feel the air tighten. He can feel his scar like a brand. He sits on the stool. The hat drops over his eyes, darkness swallowing him. For a heartbeat, there is nothing. Then a voice, not aloud, but inside his head. "Well," the hat murmurs, sounding curious. "This is complicated." Harry's throat tightens. The hat's voice is not gentle. It is old. It is sharp. It feels like being examined from the inside. "Occlumency," the hat notes amused. "At 11, someone has been building you like a fortress." Harry's walls rise instinctively. The hat laughs softly. "Oh no," it murmurs. "Those walls are impressive, boy. But I don't knock. I seep." Harry's breath catches. He feels the hat pressing past the Malfoy mask, past the rehearsed posture, past the polished identity. It slides through cracks Harry didn't know existed. It finds the cupboard. It finds the hunger. It finds the rage. It finds the ancestral fire, buried beneath years of conditioning. The hat pauses. "Ah," it whispers. "There you are." Harry's stomach twists. He tries to push back. He tries to hold on to the identity Lucius crafted. But the hat is older than Lucius, older than the Malfoy name. It tastes Harry's ambition, yes. It tastes his cunning, yes. It tastes the cold discipline. But beneath it, it tastes something else. Stubbornness, defiance, a soldier's heart, a refusal to be owned. The hat's voice becomes thoughtful. "Slytherin would make you powerful," it murmurs. "But in Slytherin, you would remain someone else's design." Harry's breath catches. The hat presses deeper. "And Gryffindor," it whispers, "would burn you, test you, force you to become yourself." Harry's chest tightens. He feels the word burn. Gryffindor. No. Lucius will. Draco will. The hat's voice sharpens. "Do you want to be a shadow forever?" it asks. Harry's mind flashes to Lucius's handwriting. The trap. The annotations. The investment. Something cold and bright sparks behind Harry's walls. "No." The hat chuckles. "Thought so," it murmurs. And then, aloud for the entire hall to hear, "Gryffindor." The roar from the Gryffindor table is loud, immediate. But everything else is silent. It is not the stunned silence of surprise. It is the suffocating silence of a political earthquake. Harry's stomach drops. He lifts the hat off his head and stands, legs feeling strangely distant. He sees Draco's face. Draco looks as if someone has slapped him. His pale skin has drained of color. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open. He looks at Harry, not like a brother, not like a rival. Like a stranger, Harry's throat tightens. He forces himself to walk. He moves toward the Gryffindor table, feeling every gaze like needles. The Gryffindors cheer, but their cheer is uncertain, confused. Harry's expensive robes stand out like a wound among the red and gold. The Malfoy signet ring on his finger gleams under the candlelight like a provocation. He sits. No one immediately sits close to him. He feels isolated, on a table full of noise. Across the hall, Draco sits at the Slytherin table when his name is called. But Draco does not look proud. He looks furious. And beneath fury, Harry sees something else. Betrayal. That night, Harry climbs into a Gryffindor dormitory bed that is smaller, simpler, warmer. He lies awake staring at the ceiling. The castle hums around him, alive. He thinks of Lucius. He thinks of Narcissa. He thinks of the hat's words, someone else's design. Harry closes his eyes, building his walls high. But he cannot stop the dread, because he knows Malfoy Manor will not take this quietly. The next morning, it arrives. A bright red envelope lands on the Gryffindor breakfast table like a dropped bomb. It smolders. It vibrates with suppressed lethal energy. Every student within sight goes silent. Harry's stomach drops. He recognizes the seal. Malfoy wax. The envelope trembles. Then it erupts. The voice that fills the great hall is not simply a shout. It is Lucius Malfoy's cold authority amplified into a weapon. The Howler's words slice through the hall with public precision, each syllable designed to humiliate and control. It calls Harry ungrateful. It calls him treasonous. It calls him a disgrace. It declares for everyone to hear that by choosing the House of the Weak, Harry has severed himself from the family that reclaimed him. The Howler does not merely scold. It disowns. When it finishes, it bursts into flame, leaving only ash on Harry's plate. The great hall is silent. Harry sits perfectly still. His face is an aristocratic mask of ice. His mind walls slam shut. He does not flinch. He does not cry. He does not move. But inside, behind the walls, something fractures. Not because Lucius disowned him, because Lucius wanted to make sure the entire world saw Harry as a traitor. Harry realizes, with cold clarity, that Lucius is not simply angry. Lucius is making a statement, a warning. You do not leave the Malfoys without consequence. Harry stands slowly, gathers his things, and walks out of the great hall without looking at anyone. He feels the Gryffindor's stares. He feels the Slytherin's whispers. He feels Draco's gaze like a blade in his back. He becomes what Lucius has made him, a ghost between worlds, belonging to neither. And for the first time since leaving the cupboard, Harry feels truly alone again. But he also feels something else, burning quietly beneath the loneliness. A stubborn fire, a refusal to collapse. If the Malfoys want war, Harry thinks coldly. Then he will learn how to fight without them. The first thing Harry learns about Gryffindor is that bravery is loud. It is laughter that fills corridors. It is friends slapping each other on the back. It is stories told over breakfast, with mouths full of toast. It is risk taken without calculation, a kind of joyful carelessness that feels almost holy to people who have never lived inside consequences. Harry is not loud. Harry is precise. He moves through his first year like a blade hidden in red fabric, performing competence the way he was trained to. Perfect homework, controlled speech, flawless posture. He says what is necessary and nothing more. He builds his reputation, not with charm, but with results. The Gryffindors don't know what to do with him. Some admire him, some distrust him, some resent him. To them, his robes and ring and cultivated coldness are proof he belongs to the enemy. To the Slytherins, he is worse. He is not merely an enemy. He is a traitor. Draco Malfoy makes sure the message spreads. He doesn't scream at Harry. That would be childish beneath them. Draco does something much cleaner. He becomes distant. He becomes cruel in silence. He turns every Slytherin stare into a verdict. And because Draco grew up beside Harry like a shadow, Draco knows where the knives go. By the end of first year, Harry has learned how to exist inside hostility without giving anyone the satisfaction of seeing him break. He has survived worse than whispers. He has survived cupboards. But the castle is not Privet Drive. The castle has history. The castle has secrets. And the second year arrives with something rotten in its breath. It begins with whispers. It begins with students glancing at Harry and then looking away too quickly, as if his face is contagious. It begins with the tension that creeps into the corridors, the way laughter turns sharp, the way footsteps quicken after dark. Then the message appears on the wall. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir, beware. Harry stands in front of the words with a quiet stillness, his face blank. Around him, students gather like a storm cloud. Professors push through, wands raised, voices clipped. Harry feels the gaze. Not just curiosity now. Suspicion. Because the message is old. It is Slytherin's legend. It is pure-blood history. It is the kind of threat that points in one direction. And Harry Potter has been raised by the Malfoys. If Hogwarts needs a scapegoat, Hogwarts already has the perfect one. That night, at the Gryffindor table, the whispers are louder than the clinking plates. He was raised by Death Eaters. He speaks like one. Look at him. He doesn't even look scared. He's the heir. He has to be. Harry eats with controlled movements, not reacting. He can feel the tension like heat. He can feel Ron Weasley watching him from across the table with a troubled frown. Ron has been something. Not exactly a friend. Not yet. But Ron has sat beside Harry more often than most. Ron has argued with others when they sneer too loudly. Ron has thrown jokes into the air like shields. Hermione Granger has been another presence. Sharp-eyed, brilliant, cautious. She watches Harry like she is trying to solve him like an equation. Harry does not let either of them in. He has been trained not to, but he feels their attention, and he feels how different it is from the cold hunger of the Slytherins. It is not desire to own him. It is desire to understand. That is dangerous too, because understanding can become leverage. The attacks begin. A student is found petrified, stiff as stone, eyes wide with frozen terror. The castle shifts overnight. Fear becomes a living thing. Students travel in groups. Professors patrol. The corridors feel narrower, darker. The air smells like cold stone and panic. And every time someone is attacked, every time another victim is found, the gaze returns to Harry, the Dark Prince, the Malfoy Heir, the boy who lived, raised in a house that once served Voldemort. Harry's occlumency walls stay up constantly now, not in lessons. In life, he moves through Hogwarts as if wearing armor inside his skull. He does not defend himself to a Malfoy. Defense is weakness. To a Malfoy, you endure the world's judgment until you are in a position to render your own. But not everyone follows Malfoy rules. During the dueling club, the tension finally snaps into spectacle. Lockhart, desperate for attention, announces the club as if it is entertainment rather than survival. Students crowd into the hall, buzzing with nervous energy. Wands are out. Teachers watch carefully. Harry stands among the crowd, face blank, arms folded. Draco stands near the front. He looks polished, pale, proud. But Harry sees the strain in his eyes. Draco is not only performing for the school, he is performing for his father, for his house, for the pure-blood world that now expects Draco to compensate for Harry's betrayal. When it is Draco's turn to duel, he chooses Harry. Of course he does. The room tightens. Gryffindors bristle. Slytherins smirk. Teachers watch like they are anticipating a controlled explosion. Harry steps forward calmly, his wand held loosely. Draco lifts his wand like a challenge. They bow. Draco's eyes are icy. "This is your chance," Draco says under his breath. "Prove you're still worth the name." Harry's jaw tightens slightly. "I don't have your name," Harry says quietly. Draco's face flickers with anger. "Exactly," Draco snaps. Then aloud he grins. Serpent Sortia. A snake bursts from Draco's wand, thick and dark, coiling on the floor with a hiss that slices through the room. The crowd gasps. The snake turns its head, tongue flicking. Then it lunges, not at Harry, but toward the students. Panic erupts. A girl screams. A boy stumbles back. Professors reach for their wands. Harry does not. Harry watches the snake like he is watching a familiar equation. It moves like a predator. It strikes like a knife. And in the split second before it hits the crowd, Harry speaks, not in English, not in words the students know. A liquid, sibilant sound spills from his throat, low and cold, like wind through a graveyard. Parseltongue. The snake freezes mid-lunge. It turns its head toward Harry, obedient. Harry speaks again, the language smooth, terrifyingly natural. The snake slithers back, retreating. Silence slams down. The entire room feels frozen. Then whispers explode. Did you hear him? He spoke to it. That's dark magic. That's Slytherin's language. Harry stands perfectly still, face blank, wand lowered. He has known about Parseltongue. Lucius discovered it when Harry was 8, after a garden serpent responded to Harry's murmured command. Lucius's reaction had been sharp, hungry. A gift, Lucius had said. A crown. The language of Slytherin himself. Lucius had told him never to use it in public, unless it served a purpose. Harry has used it now, because the alternative was letting the snake bite someone, letting the school descend into chaos. He did not expect the reaction, but he should have. Because Parseltongue is not a neutral talent in the wizarding world. It is a stigma. It is a confession. It is proof, to the frightened, that the darkness runs in your blood. The students stare at Harry as if he has revealed a monster beneath his skin. Even the Gryffindors look uncertain. Ron's face is pale. Hermione's eyes are wide, calculating. Draco looks like he has been punched, not because Harry spoke Parseltongue, because Harry did. Draco's envy ignites into something raw and ugly. In Draco's world, Parseltongue belongs to Slytherin legacy. It belongs to their house, their myth. Seeing it spill from Harry, the traitor in Gryffindor robes, feels like sacrilege. Draco's eyes burn with hate. The Brotherhood doesn't crack. It breaks. After the dueling club, the scapegoating becomes open. Students avoid Harry in the corridors. Teachers watch him longer than necessary. Whispers follow him like shadows. He becomes the Dark Prince in truth. And then Hermione disappears. They find her later, petrified. Clutching a torn piece of paper in her stiff fingers, Harry stares at the paper when it is shown to the teachers. He reads the words quickly, his mind immediately calculating. Basilisk pipes. The chamber. The monster is not a person. It is a creature. Harry's stomach twists with cold clarity. If the chamber is real, if the basilisk is real, then the heir is not Harry. Someone else is moving through the castle using the legend as cover. Harry should bring this to the teachers. Harry should trust the system. But the Malfoy in him does not trust systems. Systems are controlled by people like Lucius. Systems are manipulated. Harry does what he was trained to do. He acts. He moves quietly. He pulls Ron aside and speaks in a low voice, controlled. I know what it is, Harry says. Ron blinks, fear in his eyes. What do you mean you know? Ron whispers. Harry's eyes flick to the corridor, checking for eavesdroppers. The monster, Harry says. It's a basilisk. Ron's face goes pale. A what? Harry's voice is cold. A snake, he says. A big one. Ron swallows hard. How do you know? Harry hesitates, because answering means revealing where his knowledge comes from. Lucius's books. Lucius's lessons. Malfoy Manor. But Harry has already been branded. Another secret won't save him now, because I was raised by people who collect dangerous things, Harry says quietly. Ron's eyes widen. And you're telling me because? Ron asks, voice shaking. Harry's gaze sharpens. Because if we wait, Harry says, someone else dies. Ron stares at him for a long moment. Then Ron nods, jaw tight. Right, Ron says quietly. So, what do we do? Harry feels a strange flicker in his chest. Not relief. Something like respect, because Ron is terrified, and he still chooses to move. That is Gryffindor. Harry is not Gryffindor by nature, but he understands courage when he sees it. They track the clues through the castle like hunters. Pipes, bathrooms, the sound of water moving behind stone. They find the entrance in Myrtle's bathroom. Harry opens it with parcel tongue, speaking the sibilant words without hesitation. Ron shudders. You're really doing that, Ron whispers. Harry's face stays blank. It's a tool, Harry says. Don't make it a religion. They descend. The tunnel is damp, cold. The smell is rot and old water. Harry's footsteps are silent. Ron's breathing is loud. They reach the chamber. It is not a palace. It is a tomb. Stone walls slick with moisture, ancient carvings. The air thick with shed skin and decay. At the far end, a boy stands. Tom Riddle. He looks like a memory made flesh. Handsome, calm, too perfect. Harry's mind shifts instantly into analysis. This is not a real boy. This is magic. This is a trap. Riddle's eyes slide over Harry, amused. So, he says softly, the famous Harry Potter finally arrives. Harry's grip tightens on his wand. What are you? Harry asks calmly. Riddle smiles. A memory, he says. A diary. A piece of someone greater. Harry's scar throbs faintly. Riddle's gaze flicks to it. You've been raised well, Riddle observes, tone curious. I can see it in the way you stand. In your eyes. You've been taught to be cold. Harry's jaw tightens. Riddle steps closer, eyes bright. Tell me, Riddle says, do you know who opened the chamber? Harry's eyes narrow. He doesn't answer. Riddle smiles as if enjoying the silence. You, Riddle says. Ron flinches. Harry's face stays blank. No, Harry says calmly. Riddle's smile widens. You speak parcel tongue, Riddle says. You were raised by Death Eaters. You have the scar. The world already suspects you. All I needed was to give them proof. Harry's stomach tightens. Proof. A narrative. A scapegoat. It's too familiar. It feels like Lucius's press story all over again. Harry's eyes sharpen. Where is Ginny? Harry asks. Riddle gestures lazily. Ginny Weasley lies on the floor, pale, barely breathing. Ron makes a strangled sound and starts forward. Harry grabs Ron's sleeve, holding him back. Don't, Harry says sharply. Ron's eyes are wild. It's a trap, Harry snaps, voice low. He wants you to move. Riddle's smile sharpens. Very Malfoy, he murmurs. Harry's chest tightens at the word. Riddle lifts the diary slightly. I've been feeding on her, Riddle says calmly, and when she dies, I will return, fully. And then, Riddle's eyes gleam. I will kill you, he says softly. Because this world has room for only one legend. Harry's mind goes cold and sharp. He understands this. Orphan, power, blood, identity, Riddle is a mirror. But Harry is not a mirror that bends to darkness. Harry was forged by it. Riddle's gaze turns distant, and Harry feels the air shift. A low rumble vibrates through the stone. The basilisk arrives. It emerges like a nightmare, massive and pale, scales slick, eyes like death. The air fills with its breath, damp and foul. Ron freezes, terror locking him. Harry does not. Harry's stance changes instantly, narrow and predatory. Lucius's drills, footwork, angles, precision. Harry does not wait for a miracle. He does not charge like a storybook hero. He calculates. The basilisk lunges. Harry moves. He casts not flashy spells, but structural magic. Transfiguration that changes the environment itself. Stone shifts. Pillars rise. The floor fractures into sharp edges. He creates geometry, a rotating cage of obsidian spears. The basilisk slams into it, scales scraping stone. It hisses, furious. Harry keeps moving, circling, forcing it to follow. He baits it. He drives it into the exact position he wants. Then he snaps his wand downward. The spears collapse inward like closing jaws. The basilisk screams. It thrashes, shattering stone. Harry's arms shake with the strain, but his face stays blank. A final flick. A spear drives into the basilisk's head. The creature collapses. Silence. Ron stares, panting, eyes wide with horror and awe. Harry stands over the carcass, breathing steady, wand still raised. He feels no triumph, only cold exhaustion. Riddle's laughter echoes softly. Well, Riddle says, that was efficient. Harry turns, eyes sharp. Riddle looks at him with fascination. You're not like the others, Riddle murmurs. You don't fight like a child. You fight like a weapon. Harry's jaw tightens. And you, Harry says quietly, talk too much. Riddle's smile widens. Still, Riddle says, you can't destroy me. Not truly. Harry's gaze flicks to the diary. He remembers something from the Manor library, the alchemy of decay, the concept of soul anchors, of dark magic that can bind pieces of a person into objects. Harry doesn't know the full theory yet, but he knows one thing. If Riddle is a memory inside the diary, then destroying the diary destroys him. Harry looks down at the basilisk. Its fang gleams, wet with venom. Harry kneels, gripping the fang and wrenching it free. The venom smokes faintly where it touches air. Ron stares, breathing hard. Harry, Ron whispers, what are you? He stands and drives the fang into the diary. Black ink erupts like blood. A scream fills the chamber. Not human, not animal, something in between. Riddle's face contorts, shifting, unraveling. No, Riddle snarls, voice cracking. You don't understand what you've done. Harry holds the fang steady, eyes cold. I understand enough, Harry says. Riddle dissolves into smoke, fading, screaming, until silence swallows him. Ginny gasps, suddenly breathing again. Ron rushes to her, shaking. Harry stands back, watching, face blank, but inside something flickers. Relief that someone is alive. Relief that he did not fail. Then Ginny speaks, weak and trembling. It was Malfoy, she whispers. Lucius Malfoy. He put it in my things. He gave it to me. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. His chest tightens. His mind walls shudder. Lucius, Harry's vision, swims for a moment. Lucius gave her the diary. Lucius set this in motion. Lucius risked Hogwarts, risked students, risked Ginny, risked Harry himself, all for a political move. Harry stands in the chamber, the basilisk's corpse cooling beside him, and something inside him goes very still. This is not suspicion anymore. This is confirmation. The man who rescued him was never a savior. He was a strategist. He was a predator. Harry looks down at the fang still in his hand, venom glistening. He realizes, with cold clarity, that he has been living inside Lucius's design his whole life. And now, Lucius's design has tried to bury him in the dark. Harry's face remains blank, but behind his eyes, behind the walls, the fire changes shape. It becomes something sharper, something that does not worship, something that plans. Harry lifts his head. Ron is holding Ginny, shaking, crying openly. Harry does not cry. He simply speaks, voice quiet and cold. "We're leaving," Harry says. Ron looks up, eyes wild. What about, what about telling? Harry's eyes sharpen. "We will," Harry says, "but we will do it on our terms." Because that is what Harry has learned from the Malfoys. If you want to survive powerful people, you don't scream accusations in the dark. You gather proof. You choose timing. You strike when it matters. They climb out of the chamber with Ginny between them. The castle above feels different now. Less like a school. More like a board. More like a war. And Harry Potter, branded as the Dark Prince, walks back into the light with a secret that could burn Malfoy Manor to the ground. The summer after the chamber is the first time Harry returns to Malfoy Manor with a weapon he didn't have before. Not a wand, not occlumency, not posture, knowledge. He walks through the iron gates and the manicured hedges and the marble corridors with the same controlled grace he always has. But inside, behind the walls, everything is different. The manor still smells like cedar and stone. The portraits still watch. The servants still bow. Dobby still trembles with devotion. But Harry is no longer a child who believes the manor is salvation. He is a boy who knows it is a cage. Lucius greets him in the drawing room, cane in hand, posture perfect, expression smooth. Draco stands nearby, pale and stiff, eyes flicking toward Harry, with a complicated mix of anger and longing, and something that looks dangerously like fear. Narcissa sits by the window, hands folded, composed as ever, but Harry sees the tension in her shoulders. Lucius speaks first, as if nothing has happened. "You performed adequately," he says, voice calm. Adequately. Harry's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Lucius continues, tone polite, as if discussing a dinner party rather than a monster that nearly killed students. "The school," Lucius says, "has a talent for hysteria. Your involvement has complicated things." Harry holds his gaze. "My involvement," Harry repeats quietly. Lucius's eyes narrow slightly. "Do not be foolish," Lucius says. "The world will believe whatever story is most convenient." Harry's mind flashes to Ginny's trembling voice. "Lucius Malfoy gave it to me." Convenience. Story. Lucius doesn't deny it. He reframes it. Harry feels something cold settle in his chest. "You risked me," Harry says calmly. The room stills. Draco's breath catches. Narcissa's fingers tighten slightly. Lucius's expression doesn't change. "No," Lucius says softly. "I tested you." Harry's stomach twists. Lucius steps closer. "You survived," Lucius says. "You proved you can handle the weight of what you are." Harry's voice is quiet, controlled. "A girl almost died," he says. Lucius's gaze sharpens. "Girls die every day," Lucius replies, and the casual cruelty of it lands like poison. Harry's walls hold his face still, but behind them the fire flares. Narcissa speaks suddenly, voice low and sharp. "That's enough," she says. Lucius glances at her, annoyance flickering. Narcissa's eyes lock onto him with cold authority. "He is home," she says. Do not greet him like an officer returning from war. Lucius's mouth tightens. Harry watches them, seeing clearly now. Narcissa pushes against the machine when she can, quietly, invisibly, never publicly. Lucius is the machine. Lucius looks back to Harry. "You will not speak of this again," Lucius says calmly. Not to anyone. Not to your Gryffindor friends. Not to Dumbledore. Not to the Ministry. You will let this die. Harry meets his gaze. Yes, Harry says. Lucius's eyes narrow, satisfied, because Lucius hears obedience. He does not hear the difference between yes as submission and yes as strategy. Harry's yes is a promise to himself. I will let it die publicly, and I will keep it alive privately until I can kill you with it. The third year begins under a different kind of shadow. Dementors. The Ministry sends them to Hogwarts, and they arrive like a mistake made physical. They glide through corridors cloaked and silent, sucking warmth out of the air. Most students fear them because they bring despair. Harry fears them because they bring memory. The first time a Dementor boards the Hogwarts Express, it feels like the cupboard reappearing in the shape of cold. Not just cold temperature, cold existence. The kind of cold that says, you do not matter. Harry's vision tunnels. His chest tightens. He hears a baby crying, distant, ghostly, and for a second he is not 11, or 12, or 13. He is 3. He is trapped. He is helpless. His body shakes. Someone screams in the compartment. Harry's wand is in his hand before he knows he's moved. The Dementor leans closer, and Harry feels it searching him, tasting his despair like a predator tasting blood. Harry does not collapse. He forces his occlumency walls up with brutal speed. He shoves the cupboard memory behind stone doors. He clamps down on fear so hard it turns into pain. The Dementor recoils slightly, confused, as if it has found a mind that won't open. But it doesn't leave. It presses harder. Harry's head pounds. His breath is ragged. And then a voice snaps through the cold. Expecto Patronum. Silver light bursts into the compartment, driving the Dementor back. Harry blinks, disoriented, and sees Professor Lupin lowering his wand, face pale. Lupin looks at Harry for a long moment, not with suspicion, with concern. You all right? Lupin asks quietly. Harry forces his breathing steady. Yes, Harry says. It is the truth, and a lie. He is alive, but something has been reopened. The Dementors do not just attack him. They scrape at the seams of his mind. They threaten to expose what he hides, not to other people, but to himself. And Harry realizes something with sudden dread. Occlumency is not invincibility. It is pressure. It is living behind walls that never stop holding weight. The year continues with the looming story of Sirius Black. To most of the school, Sirius is a murderer on the loose. To Harry, Sirius is a ghost of a life he never had. He knows the name vaguely from books and whispers, but he has no emotional attachment to it. His life has been Malfoy Manor, not Potter history. Still, the story of Sirius stalks the castle the way Dementors do. Cold, inevitable, pressing. And then it culminates in the Shrieking Shack. The night is chaos. The castle is tense. Snow or rain or wind lashes the grounds. Harry follows the trail not like a reckless Gryffindor, but like a man approaching a confrontation he has already calculated. Inside the shack, he finds Sirius. Sirius Black is not what the storybook version of a godfather would look like. He is gaunt, wild-eyed, hair hanging in tangles. His posture is broken, his face lined with suffering. He looks like a man who has been eaten alive by years. Harry feels no immediate warmth. He feels revulsion, not because Sirius is ugly, because Sirius is what happens when you stop holding yourself together. Lupin arrives. The truth spills out in fragments. Betrayal, Pettigrew, Azkaban, the Potters. Harry listens, face blank, mind cold, absorbing facts. Then Sirius looks at him, eyes suddenly desperate. Harry, Sirius says, voice hoarse, come with me. We can leave. We can have a home. A real home. The words hang in the air. Home. Harry's chest tightens. A real home. For a heartbeat, something in him flickers. Not Malfoy discipline, Potter longing. A desire to belong somewhere without being shaped into a weapon. But then, like a shadow sliding over light, Narcissa's face appears in Harry's mind. The woman who did not hug him, but protected him. The woman who placed tea by his bed in the night. The woman who told him not to become stone. The woman trapped inside the machine Lucius built. Harry sees her fear when the Dark Lord's name is mentioned. He sees her quiet rebellions. He sees the fact that if Harry leaves, Narcissa stays. And Narcissa is the only mother he has ever known. Harry's face stays calm. He adjusts his cuffs, a habit Lucius drilled into him when he needed to anchor himself. "I'm not coming," Harry says quietly. Sirius's face collapses. "What?" he whispers. Harry's voice is steady, cold, but not cruel. "I can't," Harry says. "Not like this." Sirius's eyes burn. "They kept you," Sirius snarls, sudden anger flaring. "They stole you." Harry's gaze sharpens. "They raised me," Harry says. The words taste complicated because both can be true. Sirius stares at him, desperate. "You don't understand," Sirius says. They're Death Eaters. They're poison." Harry's eyes narrow. "I know," Harry says quietly. And that is the truth Sirius doesn't expect. Harry knows. He knows Lucius used him. He knows Lucius is poison. But Harry also knows something else. Sometimes you don't escape poison by running. Sometimes you neutralize it by staying close enough to control it. "I'm staying," Harry says softly, "because someone has to." Sirius's face twists in anguish. Harry feels the flicker of Potter fire in his chest, the urge to run, to choose freedom. He crushes it. He chooses the manor, not because he loves it, because he thinks he can protect Narcissa, because he thinks he can steer the legacy away from Rod, because he refuses to be the burnt hole on the tapestry. The summer after third year is the last summer that feels even faintly balanced. Lucius begins treating Harry with something like renewed interest, as if Harry's refusal to abandon the manor proves something. As if Harry's loyalty, or perceived loyalty, makes him valuable again. Harry plays the role. He smiles politely. He bows. He lets Lucius believe the investment has returned to profitability. But behind his walls, Harry is calculating. He is gathering. He is preparing. And then the Triwizard Tournament arrives. Hogwarts becomes a stage for international attention, for spectacle, for glory. And the Goblet of Fire chooses Harry. The castle erupts into chaos. To everyone else, it looks like fate. To Harry, it looks like a trap. Because traps always find him. Harry moves through the tournament with a cold efficiency that shocks teachers and students alike. He does not rely on luck. He does not rely on heroic impulses. He treats each task like a puzzle to be solved. Dragons. He uses precision, distraction, controlled movement. The lake. He uses strategy, pre-planned spells, calculated risk. The maze. He moves like a predator, mind walls tight, eyes scanning for patterns. And then, at the end, the portkey activates. The graveyard is a nightmare dressed as inevitability. The air is cold. The ground is damp. Tombstones rise like teeth. Harry's heart hammers, but his face remains blank. He has lived his life inside fear. Fear no longer controls his movements. It only sharpens them. Cedric falls. The ritual begins. And Voldemort rises. When the Dark Lord emerges, Harry expects something. A monster, a beast, a myth. What he sees is worse. A man shaped like a serpent, yes, but still a man, still real, still capable of looking at Lucius Malfoy and reducing him to a groveling slave. Lucius is there. because of course he is. Harry sees him in the circle, pale, trembling, collapsing into the mud. Lucius kisses the hem of Voldemort's robe. Harry's stomach turns. The man who taught him that Malfoys bow to no one is on his knees in filth. The silver cane falls into mud like a broken crown, and in that moment, something in Harry snaps cleanly. Lucius is not a king. Lucius is not noble. Lucius is not a protector. Lucius is a terrified servant, pretending he is in control. Voldemort's gaze turns to Harry, and instead of immediate hunger, Voldemort's expression shifts into satisfaction. He touches Harry's scar with a skeletal finger like examining property. Beautiful, Voldemort murmurs, voice like poison, tempered, polished, returned. Harry's blood runs cold, returned. Voldemort sees Harry as an asset, a masterpiece shaped by Malfoy discipline, a tool. And Voldemort does what Voldemort always does. He claims, he orders Harry back to Hogwarts to play Dumbledore's golden boy, while feeding secrets to the Dark Lord's side. He commands Harry to be a surgical strike rather than a soldier. Harry bows, not because he submits, because bows are useful. Harry's occlumency walls slam shut like iron gates. He returns to the manor afterward like a ghost. The corridors feel like a tomb now. Not because they are cold, because Harry sees them clearly. He sees the manor for what it is, a cage built by people who thought cages were safety. That night, Narcissa finds him, not in the drawing room, not in public. In the dark hallway, outside his bedroom, her composure is gone. Her hands tremble as she grabs his shoulders, fingers digging into his robes, like she is afraid he will disappear. Her voice is a broken whisper. "Do not be a hero," she says. "Do not fight him. Give him whatever he wants. Smile when he speaks. Kneel when he commands. Just survive." He has never seen her like this. She is not Lady Malfoy in this moment. She is a mother watching a noose being placed around her children's necks. Harry's chest tightens, and for the first time in years, he feels tears threaten. He shoves them down instantly, but Narcissa sees it anyway, because mothers always do. Harry realizes, with devastating clarity, that the dark has not given the Malfoys power. It has given them fear, a shroud, a prison. And if Harry stays on the path Lucius built for him, he will not save Narcissa. He will simply die inside the cage. So, at the beginning of 5th year, Harry makes the most dangerous move of his life. He goes to Dumbledore. Not publicly, not dramatically. He goes quietly, alone, slipping into the headmaster's office like a thief. The room smells like lemon drops and ancient magic. The portraits watch. Fawkes the Phoenix turns its head, eyes bright, and Harry feels something in his chest twist at the sight. Phoenix, brother wand. Harry stands before Dumbledore, posture perfect, face blank. Dumbledore looks at him, not with suspicion, with weary pity. "You have been living as someone else's chess piece," Dumbledore says quietly. Harry's jaw tightens. "Yes," Harry says. Dumbledore gestures toward the pensieve. And the truth is laid bare, the prophecy. Neither can live while the other survives. Harry feels the words settle in him like a death sentence. He understands the binary nature of his existence. There is no middle ground, no safe compromise. He cannot be neutral. He cannot simply survive. He must end Voldemort, or be ended. Harry's face stays calm, but inside, the lion and serpent merge. He thinks of Narcissa trembling. He thinks of Lucius groveling. He thinks of the cupboard. He thinks of the scar as a badge and a curse. And he chooses, not the Order's ideals, not Gryffindor glory, a colder purpose. He will destroy Voldemort from the inside. He returns to the manor, and accepts Voldemort's command to be a sleeper agent with a perfect aristocratic bow. And then he begins the double game. Every secret he hears at the manor becomes a weapon delivered quietly to Dumbledore. Every Death Eater meeting becomes intelligence. Every whispered plan becomes a thread Harry pulls to unravel the Dark Lord's empire. Harry lives in terror, not obvious terror, a controlled, constant terror. Every meal is a test. Every conversation with Lucius is a minefield. Lucius watches him, proud, thinking Harry has become exactly what he wanted, the perfect weapon of the dark. Narcissa watches him with silent fear, praying he will survive. Draco watches him with anger and confusion, caught between envy, loyalty, and the trauma of being raised in a dynasty that is collapsing. Then, sixth year arrives, and Voldemort decides to secure his investment. In the candle-lit drawing room of Malfoy Manor, Voldemort demands an unbreakable vow. Harry kneels. Golden fire wraps around his wrist, burning like a chain. The command is absolute. Harry must ensure Albus Dumbledore is dead by the end of the year. Harry feels the vow settle into him like a glowing shackle. If Dumbledore lives, Harry dies. Harry brings the golden scar on his wrist to Dumbledore in the headmaster's office. Dumbledore does not look surprised. He rolls up his sleeve to reveal a blackened, shriveled hand. A curse is already killing him, and Harry realizes something with sick clarity. Dumbledore has been dying, while Harry has been playing games. Dumbledore tells Harry the truth of the Horcruxes. They map them rather than collect them, following shadows of Voldemort's past. The cave, the locket, the fake. They return to the tower with time running out. Death Eaters are inside the castle. The moment comes. Dumbledore gives Harry the command that will save him. The world must see Harry defeat him to satisfy the vow. Dumbledore tells Harry to disarm him when the doors burst open, to make it look like the Prince of the Manor has conquered the headmaster. Harry's hands shake. The golden fire on his wrist pulses. He casts Expelliarmus. Dumbledore's wand flies. The doors splinter. The Death Eaters flood in, led by Lucius Malfoy. They jeer, pushing Harry forward. They demand the killing curse. They want to see the boy who lived become a murderer. Harry stands there, trembling, wand heavy in his hand, looking at Dumbledore's eyes. Dumbledore's gaze is steady, paternal, tragic. Harry cannot do it. Not because he is moral, because he understands what killing would do to his soul. And Dumbledore knows it. Before Harry can move, Lucius steps forward. He casts Avada Kedavra with clinical speed. Green light flashes. Dumbledore falls. The vow on Harry's wrist goes cold. The debt is paid. Harry stands frozen. To the Death Eaters, it looks like Lucius finished the kill on his son's behalf. To Harry, it looks like betrayal. Not because Dumbledore died. Because Lucius stole the moment. Because Lucius, after years of shaping Harry, still treats Harry's life like a tool for his own prestige. Harry's hatred becomes clean, controlled, absolute. Seventh year comes, and Hogwarts falls under the Dark Lord's control. But Harry does not flee like the storybook hero. He becomes something else. With his status as Voldemort's favorite protege, Harry moves through the wizarding world like a judge. Doors open for him. Vaults, archives, forbidden spaces. He does not break into Gringotts. He is invited. He does not sneak through Hogwarts. He walks its halls with authority, retrieving the diadem like reclaiming property. He hunts the Horcruxes not like a desperate boy, but like a man dismantling a machine piece by piece. The final frustration is destruction. The anchors resist spells. Harry spends nights in the Malfoy library searching for the alchemy of unmaking a soul. Then, one night, he returns to his bedroom and finds something on his pillows. A silver dagger, its blade etched with runes, It smells faintly of damp stone and something acidic, basilisk venom. Beside it, a scrap of parchment bears a single line. Only the prince can kill the king. The venom of the past is the cure for the future. Harry's throat tightens. He knows who left it. Not Voldemort, not Narcissa. Lucius. Harry grips the dagger, feeling the venom's power hum. He drives it into each Horcrux. Black smoke screams soundlessly. One by one, the anchors die. Only Nagini remains. The final dinner at Malfoy Manor is decadent horror. Voldemort sits at the head of the table like a parasite king. Nagini coils across the mahogany like living ornament. Death Eaters laugh, goblets clink, the air is thick with cruelty. Harry stands behind Voldemort's chair, face blank, mind walls perfect. He does not draw his wand. He draws the silver dagger. In one fluid motion, he drives it through Nagini's skull, pinning her to the table. Voldemort's scream is not human. Black smoke erupts. The room erupts into chaos. Voldemort spins, raising the Elder Wand, hurling the killing curse at point-blank range. Green light slams into Harry's chest. Harry is thrown back into the hearth, body still, ash settling around him like snow. The Death Eaters roar. Voldemort, furious, turns his wand on Lucius. He assumes the father's betrayal. He tortures Lucius with the Cruciatus, crushing him. The dining hall becomes a frenzy of hatred. And then the screaming falters. Because Harry Potter stands up. He rises from the ash like a ghost made of shadow. His emerald robes are dark with soot. His face is still. Voldemort turns, eyes blazing. He raises the Elder Wand again. Harry steps forward and clamps his hand around Voldemort's wand wrist. The Elder Wand sparks, then goes cold. It will not strike its true master. Because years ago, on the tower, Harry disarmed Dumbledore. The wand recognizes him. Voldemort's eyes widen, pupils shrinking. For the first time, the Dark Lord looks afraid. Harry raises his own wand. He speaks the curse. Green light flashes. Tom Riddle dies. Silence slams down. Harry stands over the body for one heartbeat. Then he turns and reaches down, pulling Lucius to his feet. There is no embrace, only the silent acknowledgement of two men who survived the impossible. The war ends. But the light's justice is clinical. Lucius Malfoy is dragged before the Wizengamot in chains, charged with murder, terror, and the killing of Albus Dumbledore. Harry sits in the high gallery, face blank, watching. He expects Lucius to rot. He expects the law to close like a trap. Then the defense produces a vial of memories. The pensive smoke spills into the courtroom, projecting the truth. A secret meeting after the graveyard. Lucius, trembling, confessing the Dark Lord's return. Lucius admitting he made a terrible mistake. Lucius admitting he began to love Harry not as an asset, but as a son. Harry's throat tightens. The memory shifts. Lucius revealing the unbreakable vow to Dumbledore. Dumbledore's blackened hand. Dumbledore's command. Lucius must kill him, not out of malice, but to ensure Harry's hands stayed clean and Harry's soul stayed intact. Then the final memory. Lucius in the manor basement, tempering a silver dagger in basilisk venom. Lucius creeping into Harry's bedroom at night, leaving it on his pillow like a prayer. Lucius's face is grief and love. He was willing to be hated, willing to be called a monster, willing to let his son believe betrayal, all to ensure that son survived long enough to end the Dark Lord. When the memory fades, the courtroom is silent. Harry stands in the gallery. For the first time, his mask cracks, not into tears, into something rawer. understanding. His entire life at the manor, the distance, the brutality, even the tower, was not only strategy, it was sacrifice. Lucius is cleared. The Wizengamot cannot condemn a man who killed Dumbledore under command and ensured Voldemort's fall. Lucius steps out of the chains. He does not look at the cheering crowd. He looks only at Harry. And for a moment, Harry does not know what he feels. Anger, love, grief. The complicated truth that people can be monsters and still love. As the months pass, the manor changes. Not dramatically, not publicly, but quietly. Lucius no longer sits at the head of tables of killers. Narcissa no longer trembles in the dark. Draco and Harry, no longer rivals, no longer broken, begin to rebuild what was once twisted. They walk through the gardens without masks. The Malfoy dynasty, once built on fear, begins to build something else. Not purity, not domination, family. And Harry Potter, the boy who once slept in a cupboard, looks out over Malfoy Manor at sunset and realizes the strangest truth of all. He did not simply survive the Malfoys. He changed them. He took a house built for monsters and forced it to grow a soul. The boy who lived was never a servant. He became a prince. And then, in the end, he became something no prophecy predicted. The one who broke the cage.